Jet motion they go with here with Baldwin. And Baldwin breaks free. And the Bears sick 'em. Monterey Baldwin.
Welcome to Sick'em 365 Radio.
And off with a big hole for Shipley. Shipley's loose. Touchdown, Tigers.
Sick'em 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Brooks through the left side to the 5. Touchdown, Red Raiders. 19 yards.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Third and goal. Here's Shapin into the end zone, and how about that swagger? Another touchdown pass for Shapin. Ben Sims on the receiving end of this one.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Well, we're back together again. Paul Catalina is back. Different man, different priorities, different list of things to do.
Oh, yeah. It's great, though. I've never been happier. I had a great time. Craig, thanks for your kind words on the show last week. I did see that part. Smokey read it as if it was like Baltimore 7, White Sox 8 score kind of a thing. Like, in other news, boom.
I did like his tweet.
Yeah,
I think I did.
Yeah, but it was great. It's great. I mean, for those of you who missed it last week, I am engaged. I got engaged in Kauai a week ago Sunday, which is a way better place to do it than here. No knock on Waco. It was perfect. It was great. Hawaii is an unbelievable place. It was hard to leave, but happy to be back and here with you two.
A lot of people, Paul put a ring on it. He did. Congratulations, Paul. Much more to go. Takes a toll on you mentally, and so much more. And a lot of you already on the chat room. Good afternoon. Sick'em 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak. Emery, Levi, and Garrett in the background. And we want to dive right into this. We will hear from Dave Archer, former Iowa State quarterback, Falcons as well, Big 12 Radio Network at 3:30, and a few other things as well. We're actually going to spend time today at around 4:20 about college football mascots. As you may know, yesterday, Judge Joy Reynolds passed away, one of Baylor's mascots, and there was a lot of feedback on it. And we're going to throw up a couple of the other schools and their mascots and what they had to say. And then we'll have Kevin Jackson, Vice President, Student Life at Baylor, about just the story itself and much more. We'll also have a segment on Clemson today with rubbingtherock.com with Marty Coleman on their NIL, and also Chris Level, who covers Texas Tech, on their news yesterday. Mac Rhodes will be with us tomorrow. He got something that kind of got in his way today to be a part of the show. We've waited for a couple of weeks. We'll forgive him, but he will be on with us, I'm sure, much more important than joining us today at 4:15. Now, here is a few things that Brian Etheridge, who's one of our partners, had put up, and he's been all into this realignment thing and doing a lot of his sourcing and all whatever. We know about Colorado's board is going to meet again on Wednesday and probably discuss the Pac-12, whatever news they've gotten back on the Pac-12 network or contract. They will meet tomorrow. Right now, he's saying that ESPN is the only media member, and he's not the only one that's bidding in any way during this window with the Pac-12. Meanwhile, we've had Jason Shearer on talking about Arizona, and who knows what Arizona, Utah, Arizona State, among others, are going to do. Now, late yesterday evening, as I was about to crash, Craig, Paul, we have a 3 way text thread, and Craig threw up a text about, it was about the merger. Here the story is, the Big 12 merger with anything Pac-12, which I never thought had any chance just because of the personalities, the egos, and all the background, that's dead. It's dead man walking. I never thought that would happen. We're going to get into some reaction to that, but your reaction, you guys, about that, at least it appears maybe the Big 12 said, hey, let's talk. Didn't work out. We're done.
Well, I don't think it was ever going to happen because it doesn't make any sense to merge the leagues in the way that people were talking about. And short of, some sort of, knowing what the playoff would be, and that would make sense. I just never saw it working. Plus, I don't know what either side brings to each other as a complete entity, when it would probably be better for one or the other to raid the other one and get the best parts of it for its own product, as opposed to trying to reinvent the wheel like they're doing. I do think it's something you have to say you did, because if there was a good idea in there, at least you said you broached it, but I don't think it was ever feasible that the Pac-12 and Big 12 would merge.
Yeah, I never bought on a full merger because it just never made any sense. I don't know why you would scramble to put together 20-plus teams who apparently don't have the value that's going to add up to anything when you can just stay pat and make better money. If we're going to keep talking about money is what matters, then why do people use non-money reasons for why things are happening and try to, I can't believe that this happened? Well, are you not the same person that just said in your article that money is driving the full thing? So how are you surprised that a 24-team or whatever, Pac, Big 12, whatever, that would all have everyone making less money, most likely would not be favorable, or something that the Big 12 in particular would want to pursue? It's very clear the Pac is a little bit weaker than the Big 12. To what degree you want to argue that, have at it. I don't really care. But I think it's pretty clear the Pac-12 is in a weaker spot than the Big 12 is currently. And I think the Big 12 looked at it and looked at what the possibilities were. And as we saw in that article that was released last night, at least the one by Pete Thamel, as late last week, they are having open discussions. And it certainly seems like they were entertaining the idea. And then at some point, the Big 12 realized, hey, this would just drive down all of our values. We'd make, again, less money if we just all came together. So let's find a different avenue. And I think that different avenue is the Big 12 is going to potentially try and pick off some Pac-12 teams. I'm sure the Pac-12 is going to try and stay together as best they can. I think the wild card here is Notre Dame because of just where they fit in the grand scheme of things. Whatever move they make is going to have repercussions, whether even if they just stay in the same spot, that's going to have repercussions because it's going to close some doors that otherwise might right now feel like they're open to the Big 12 or to an Oregon or to a Washington or to a Stanford. So I think it's no surprise at all because to me, as much as, yeah, get everybody together and you've got West Coast to the Midwest and you've got money-wise, everybody's making less, most likely, based on what we know. And so that's just as simple as it gets to me. And, I also think the other part of it is why rush into some big, huge 20-plus team conference when there's still other dominoes to drop. So, like, if the ACC fizzles out and falls apart, let's just say that were to happen, because who knows? Who the heck knows? Like, nobody was predicting what we're talking about right now necessarily the way that we're talking about it. Can you go and then add, are you going to have a 30-team conference? Are you, like, where does it stop?
Well, yeah,
and would you rather have, I don't know, Duke basketball to be able to add into the fold, or someone over on the East Coast that can get you closer to West Virginia and Cincinnati and more eyeballs and more spread out? Or would you rather just fill up with the cows of the world? I know what I'd rather do. I'd rather sit and wait and see what happens and grab what I can while I can, and I think that's what the Big 12's doing.
I just think that in most people who are trying to, all our realignment heads that love our show and watch it and would do all these things, if you, like, sat down and asked them, okay, if it comes down to you can add Washington State or you can add NC State, yeah, you're probably going to pick NC State in that gig. If you can add Oregon State or you can add Virginia, you're going to add Virginia. Now, those are all not realistic options right now, but they're not realistic, especially if you have 22 teams that you just said, let's just smash these together and see what happens.
It's a lot more realistic, at least today, that if you add anybody, it would be from the West, a part of the Pac-12, depending on what else they learn themselves in the next few days or years, because we've been over the ACC thing and the grant of rights. And Craig and I discussed it yesterday. Great feedback for about 20 minutes or so. So let's kind of go over a couple of things. So yesterday, I don't know if it was Levi or Emery put up this tweet, part of our account. It was Emery. 365 Sports Trending. This was after our segment about 24 hours ago with Jason Scheer about if Arizona was the only one who if it was up to them, they would leave. And we discussed that with Jason, that they would walk out the door. Now, it's not that easy. But look who responded to that, along with many people. Trey Wingo, formerly of ESPN, now does his own podcast and does a lot of his own work. It's a rather large gap. It says in that tweet, citing the widening financial gap between the Pac-12 and the Big 12 as a major factor. That was from Jason Scheer, who covers Arizona and the Pac-12. And there's Trey Wingo. It's a rather large gap. I think Trey probably has himself a few sources of his own. Now, also, after the Pac-12, Big 12 story and the merger and all that went straight to hell, here is Stuart Mandel from theathletic.com. We've had Stuart on the show. I have nothing against Stuart, but it does seem like this is a trend among national columnists. When the Big 12 last year was floating in debris, I don't remember anybody nationally really coming to the defense and talking about their strength. And at the time, maybe we could understand that, but they did react to it. So Stuart, the Pac-12 is the league more recently rated, but it still has the two most valuable brands in either league, Oregon and Washington. That's debatable. A TV deal coming up a year sooner. Okay. An ability to provide 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern games every weekend. Brigham Young can bring that to the table, among others. Not clear to me why Big 12 thinks it's better off on its own.
Okay, I'll address them from the bottom up.
You guys go back and forth on that.
I'll address them from the bottom up. The 10:30 Eastern game, I mean, you tell me if the TV company said we're going to give you more money if you guys kick off at 9:30, the Big 12's not going to do it. So, yeah, it might be silly, but they would do it if they were told.
They got BYU.
And they got BYU, exactly. Got BYU, so they can do that. Two, the TV deal coming up sooner to me is actually a disadvantage because they have to make a decision now, and there's not enough time to really make this thing malleable and fit what you're going to do. So I think that's a disadvantage because they're in it now, and the reason that they're got rated now is because the TV deal is up now. And as far as Oregon and Washington, you can put them up against let's take the four best valuable brands in the Big 12 and throw them in there, and you can make an argument that not the two of them are not the top two brands. I mean, they'd be in the top echelon of it, but definitely the top two brands is very up for debate.
The 9:30 games, the 10:30. I mean, first of all, I respect my colleagues in this industry and everything, and I'm not going to pretend like I'm always right about everything. And certainly Stuart Mandel has broken a lot of stories, but I can't lie to people out there listening. When I saw this tweet, I thought, who is pulling his strings behind his back right now at the keyboard? Because that was, to me, just a tweet that rang so hollow and was just sort of bizarre after the news broke that the Pac-12 and the Big 12 weren't going to merge. It almost felt like he was being paid to put that narrative out there. And I'm not accusing him of that, but just the timing of it and the way it came across to me at the time, I'm like, you're asking people not clear to you why the Big 12 thinks it's better off on its own. I'm asking, how in the world do you not see that the Big 12 looks better off rather than merging with the Pac? So he and I are just coming from completely different viewpoints on this. The 9:30 games, the 10:30 games, well, I think BYU will help with that, and I think that if you were to go and grab 4 from the Pac-12, you're not going to have any problems filling your 9:30 games. So that doesn't seem like too much of an obstacle. The TV deal coming up sooner, like you said, I don't know why that's a bonus. In the midst of all this chaos and calamity, I'm not sure why having it sooner is the best thing, because I would think that if you're the Big 12, you're in the perfect position where it's not too soon to where you can get your bearings, you can get yourself settled, but it's also not so far away that you're the ACC and you were just completely helpless basically for a decade plus to change your surroundings. Now, I know the ACC is probably reportedly trying to work on getting that changed, but does it have to be changed?
No.
ESPN can sit there for 12 more years and just say, 14 years and say, no, you guys signed your deal. If you want to go through the courts and all that, cool. But guess what? We're all going to be spending millions more dollars. So I think the fact that it's not right now and it's also not 10-plus years away. It's just a couple years away. Sets up really well for the Big 12. And the last thing you do is scramble and make some rash decision like just bring on the entire Pac-12 and Cal and all its Stanford and everything that we got to deal through. Just get them in here. Let's hurry up because we got a deal coming up.
More is not better.
No, more's not better. And is that really going to be a well-thought-out probably strategy? No. So I don't see how that's a benefit. And I will argue about the Oregon and Washington. Yes, on paper and TV ratings-wise, I'm sure that they are bigger brands. But I don't think that we're talking about Alabama and Georgia here. If they are bigger brands, it is moderately bigger than the biggest brands in the Big 12. And I would need to see like actual numbers across the board because I don't think it's something like Oregon rolls in 7 million viewers per year and everybody else in the Big 12 averages like 1. I don't think it's that large of a gap. They are not blue bloods. Neither one of those teams are. So I don't know where he comes from that they're just so much more valuable because that's the way I perceived it. And maybe I'm perceiving it a little bit too sensitively, but I don't think so coming from him. I don't think that they're that much bigger. So, yeah, I vehemently disagree with basically that entire tweet.
Yeah, and it's that part is so debatable.
Exactly.
Based on what is now. Now, Seattle and Washington, we get that. We understand Oregon and the Nike brand. But you know what? They're not as hip now as they were even 5 or 10 years ago. I'm not saying if Washington and Oregon were to take a call from the Big 12 and if they joined, it wouldn't be a good thing, but it's not a desperate thing. Also, right. This from Daniel. I think national writers just don't like flyover country. That's why they're discounting the fact that the Big 12 is in a much better position than the Pac-12 at the moment. And again, it's all... again, it's emotions, it's fan base, it's passion, it's whatever else. So that's Stuart Mandel. Our good friend Tim Fitzgerald that covers Kansas State. Life of Fitz, this is a great tweet. The behavior of some national college football writers is really remarkable. It's clear to me why these guys vote for brands in the polls more than teams. They have a strange juvenile interest and association with these names. It's as if they see it as inclusion to their middle school selves. Now, I'm not taking shots at people who we have and will have on the air, but it's just kind of a discussion here.
I got to say, there's one part of that I will absolutely agree with. And I do think there are some people, and I'm not saying the majority, I'm not even citing anybody specifically, but I do think there are some people that it's very clear they were not the cool kids when they were younger and that they do feel a lot cooler because they're attached to, whether loosely or not, cool big brands. I do think there is some element to that, like especially people that cover a certain beat. If that's like a big brand name school, like you inevitably feel like that rubs off on you somehow. You know what I'm saying? So I do think there is a little bit of something to that. I also think there are just people who have different opinions, and we need to recognize that as well. You may think, what a stupid, like I think that was a stupid opinion. But you know what? I don't think that Stuart Mandel or anybody saying similar are just complete buffoons and idiots. I do question what their motivation and their angle is, because that, to me, last night I was reading that and I was like, how could you possibly feel like they're not in a better position? I don't get that. And the other tweet I saw that kind of ticked me off a little bit, and this is what feeds into it, because, I'm sure that if either one was watching right now, they would feel like they're getting picked on or something. But when Dennis Dodd tweets out a little smart-ass comment about Iowa State and Cincinnati and, the lack of cool there when the new commissioner's talking about how he wants to be cool and new and hip, and he says along the lines of, oh, yeah, nothing screams cool and hip like Iowa State and Cincinnati, what the hell would you know about cool and hip? Like, what do you know about it? You don't know what cool and hip is. I don't know. Iowa State, Cincinnati, this sounds like a damn good football game. Like, I just question kind of what the angle is, like I said earlier, and not to pick on guys, but when you're putting something like that out, I'm not going to feel sorry for you when Iowa State fans and Cincinnati fans all call you out on it because it's deserved. And these comments were, deservedly receiving some backlash.
Superficially, there's probably only 4 or 5 schools in the country that can be cool at any given time, and some of that is just due to their location. Look, Miami, the school is an excellent academic school, chock full of nerds. But, and I say that with all due respect, I'm not trying to knock them, but the cool factor comes in the fact that they're in freaking Miami, a city that bleeds cool and is all about, USC is cool because it's in LA,
I do think there is something to guys who don't cover a specific beat or a specific conference, or just people in general who feel like maybe that's what they're going to be one day. Yeah, they would rather be in front of 100,000 people in Columbus, Ohio, watching Ohio State play another brand name like Michigan State. Then they would want to be in McLean Stadium in Waco watching them play Iowa State. And you know what? Most of the country agrees. More people in the country watch that game because they have bigger fan bases. But I do think there is an element to that in the media where you do see some people that are rooting for that because guess what? Their seats on Saturday get a lot better. They don't have to worry about going out to some random place in North Carolina to interview a team they really don't clearly care all that much about. If I was Iowa State and Cincinnati fans, I'd be pissed off that Dennis Dodd said that about my programs yesterday because I think that's just the truth kind of coming out in Vino Veritas. I don't know if he was drinking at the time, but if he was, then there you go. It at least explains it a little bit better.
It's from Joel. Paul, I agree. Miami is cooler than Alabama. I mean, which program would you rather be right now? So we've tried to wrap all of that up. The chat room, a lot of you guys are saying, go Paul, go Craig. Paul, mainly because of your week in Hawaii, but also your comments and also Craig from the top rope on many of them. The 801, amen. I feel like this is the only place I can get quality information and not fake news. Spencer, we appreciate that. Now, earlier today, the Texas High School Coaches Association convention, which began Sunday, Saturday with the Hall of Honor ceremony, wrapped up earlier today with over, 10 to 15,000 high school coaches. We've heard and seen pictures, Steve Sarkisian, Jimbo Fisher. We've seen the 12 FBS coaches up on a stage. We, of course, had Dave Aranda on last week in Arlington, but I saw this from KENS Channel 5 in San Antonio. A little comment when asked about college football's landscape. Here's Dave Aranda. This is about 60 seconds long.
Conference realignment, name, image, likeness, transfer portal, all of it could be looked at in terms of the aftermath of power. It's like when you flex or weaponize your power and you maybe an abuse of power, this is what we're dealing with happens. And not that any of it's necessarily a bad thing, but you have coaches that just make a lot of money and there's kind of dictatorships and all of it, and players are not held to that, and coaches can do all of it and then leave and find a new dictatorship, and after a while, that becomes kind of a thing, and now you have what we have, which is good, and then I think in terms of the, chasing the bag, in terms of the conference realignment, I think, all of it is, after a while, what you end up losing is, like, what are we really doing? Like, who are we really... Are we really getting through to the kids that we need to get to? Are we keeping that in the front sight? Is their education still important?
All right, so that's Dave Aranda. And again, thank you very much to KENS Channel 5 in San Antonio for providing that. It was Nate Ryan who provided that audio. And there were other media members there, but it was his audio and video.
Well, look, and Dave Aranda is the most intellectual coach in America. I have no problem saying that he almost stands alone. There's a lot of smart guys, but he is super intellectual, and he's right. There are people weaponizing their power right now. And to what end? I don't think they've answered those questions. The end is this. Okay, well, what do you sacrifice in order to get there? You sacrifice what people may like about it. Like there appears to be this goal in college football to get to this point. But like I've said before, I don't know how if any of us really asked for all this at all. So
Washington State didn't.
Yeah. So,
Oregon State didn't.
But even fans of even the big Ohio State fans want this necessarily, or did we all just want a 12-team playoff?
Because I think some of the biggest, bluest of blue bloods kind of get thrown under the bus here because of this arms race. And yes, they're all going to be safe, and they're the ones that can lead it. But that doesn't mean all of them like what's going on. There are some that probably do.
No, I think there's some that do. And absolutely, when you're talking about with at least two of the conferences now, the Super 2, whatever. I think I've coined Super 2. I'm claiming that. Just that short phrase.
Get that copyrighted.
Yeah. But I would imagine, there's some that aren't really high on the direction this is all going. And like I've said before, if it ultimately results in, which I don't think that it will result in just like a 34-team league or whatever, like the NFL, it might sort of kind of look like that in a way, but there's the whole ACC that hasn't made, future plans just yet. So there's at least a third conference there. The Big 12 or the Pac-12, somebody's surviving there in some shape or form. So there's going to have to be a lot of like deleting of teams in the next few years to get to where it's just these two really, and that's it, and that's all we know college football to be. But there are going to be programs that are amongst those two right now that are going to face the harsh reality of, yes, the money's fantastic and your university will never want for money again, but all those games you were used to winning, that's not going to be the case anymore. Like, for the teams that were used to winning 10 games every other year, you might be lucky to win 9 on occasion now because the schedule's just going to be so much more difficult. And maybe that's just the new reality where teams don't go undefeated as often, and going 10-2 is more of the norm for the top teams. Maybe that's how it all settles back down. But, yeah, there's going to be some wake-up calls that we're not even thinking about, and some things that, just become, I would imagine, problems over the course of time that we can't really foresee right now because everything's happening so quickly. It's like, how could you possibly foresee the unforeseen when you don't even have time to breathe before something else has changed that you have to react to? So you can't really plan for anything. All those years you had to plan, everybody just counted money and thought this day would never come. Then the day came, and then another one followed up, and another one followed up, and it was just like, oh my gosh, now we have no control, and now we don't know what to do, and now we don't even have really time to do anything about what's happening because it's happening so quickly. And so here we are, and that's where we've arrived now. And it does feel like in terms of the playoff, there is, I guess, more clarity. Now we know that, like, hey, it's not changed until the contract runs out, so there's at least that piece of it. But what do the conferences look like outside of those two? What do those two look like ultimately? Are they done shopping? Is the Big 12 around? Is the Pac-12 around? There's still a lot of questions to be answered, so I don't think anybody can really accurately predict exactly what this sport will look like in 5 years. Or even sooner than that in some cases, because while we may have had an idea that NIL is going to turn in what it's turned into, even still, I think there's probably been some surprises along the way. So I'm sure there will be more surprises to come, and that's part of the fun, but that's also part of the kind of the crisis that college football is facing in so many ways.
All right, one other note, news-wise, college football, they released the Davey O'Brien preseason award watch list. By the way, former Baylor quarterback Gary Bohannon is on it, USF. You have Dylan Gabriel, Jaron Hall from Brigham Young, Frank Harris, UTSA, Tanner Mordecai played high school football in Waco at SMU, Oklahoma State, Spencer Sanders. You have Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, among others, and then Clayton Tune from Houston and Caleb Williams of USC, formerly at Oklahoma. And there's a bunch of others who are on the list. I didn't mean to leave anybody out, but those are some of the tie-ins locally or through the Big 12 or have been a part of Texas at some point. When we come back, Dave Archer, he's with the Big 12 Radio Network on Sirius XM. His thoughts about what's going on today, his thoughts about the future of the Big 12, and his thoughts as a former player at Iowa State, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. DiscoverWoodway.com has information now on Woodway's Family Movie Night coming up on August the 13th, featuring different type of movies and, of course, much more. It's called Clifford, by the way. It's August 13th from 8 until 10. It's free. Woodway's Family Movie Night featuring Clifford the Big Red Dog. And that's at DiscoverWoodway.com. More information. Also, by the way, this is put on by the Woodway Public Safety Department for Woodway's Family Movie Night featuring Clifford the Big Red Dog. And wonder what college football program, if they had a mascot, would be Clifford the Big Red Dog. By the way, it's August 13th. Enjoy. It's free. Go to discoverwoodway.com for more information.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, the new 2022 Impressive Wagoneer Series 2 and 3 have 2.9% for 72 months, plus $4,500 competitive bonus cash going on now. That's right, and $4,500 bonus cash. This incentive on the new 2022 Wagoneers for a limited time only at Allen Samuels in Waco. First responders get $500 extra cash. Come shop the new car and truck inventory today at Allen Samuels Waco.
Come by, let's be friends. Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Former college quarterback at Iowa State, spent time in the NFL as well and a part of Sirius XM and many things. The Big 12 radio network as well. Joins us Dave Archer on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and David Smoak. Dave, you were at Big 12 Media Days. It's been a week. It seems like it was a month ago with all the different thoughts and changes and reports. But let me ask you this. If you see what the Pac-12 has or those who could be available, which ones do you think make the most sense if, in fact, the Big 12 tries to expand?
Well, Smokey, that's kind of a several parts question, right? If you're looking for the money part of it, which it seems like everything is a money grab right now. Oregon, from a value standpoint, makes a lot of sense. I don't know that Washington does, but certainly that Seattle market, I guess. The 2 Arizona schools make some sense because of the Phoenix market, which I know is 11 or 12 in the country if you're looking at it from a TV market standpoint. But from a pure football value standpoint, Oregon and Utah to me make the most sense if you're going to add 2. If you're going to add 4, then you begin to maybe look and expand and look market wise as opposed to football value. The problem with that is, Smokey, and I know you guys have been chopping it up, for Baylor to go to Eugene, not a big deal. But for West Virginia to go to Eugene to play a game, that is a big deal in basketball or in volleyball or whatever the other sport may be. So there's a lot of parts to the question. But from a pure football standpoint, and I guess a selfish fan standpoint in me, I'd love to see Utah and Oregon, who have been the 2 best programs in that conference for the last several years, those are the two teams I'd go get.
Dave, are you surprised at how quickly the Pac-12 has gotten to this point of just a year ago, no, we don't want anything to do with the Big 12, to now of maybe they're the only lifeline that they'll have?
It really is interesting, isn't it, guys? Because last year we were kind of holding our breath within the Big 12 as to, okay, who are the Pac-12 going to try to poach? Are they going to try to grab Baylor and Oklahoma State and some of the teams that are at the top of the conference and run away with those two teams or four teams and potentially leave us with nothing? And they didn't. And I don't know why they didn't. Was it a spirit of the game thing? George Kliavkoff and Bob Bowlesby had conversations. They maintained their own entities, and here we are with the shoe completely on the other foot. And everybody that I can talk to about the Big 12, go raid them, go take anything you can, get everything you can get from them. So it's really odd and really strange, a strange situation that both these conferences find themselves in just a year removed from when the shoe was completely on the other foot.
Dave, the Big 12 had a little bit of uncertainty when it was announced they were going to go on the hunt for a new commissioner. Brett Yormark ended up being the guy. A lot of people said who, went to Google and figured out a little bit more, but we finally got to hear him. And a lot of people got to do interviews like ourselves, kind of one-on-one-ish with him. What were your thoughts about Brett Yormark and just what you heard and the timing of it all? I mean, it seems just about perfect given his kind of vision, although we're still learning what that is. But, I mean, the news this week and the fact that he was just talking about being on the hunt a few days ago, just your thoughts on the Yormark start.
Well, yeah, I was impressed, guys. I think that everybody that listened to him talk and certainly listened to his message was impressed. I thought that, things that obviously stuck out. Hey, we're open for business. Another thing that I liked, that's the guy's a New Yorker. I don't know how much time he spent in Waco, Texas, or Lubbock, Texas, or Fort Worth as far as that goes. Ames, Iowa was certainly not on his map and on his radar. But what he said was he was going to spend the next 60 days, he was going to embed himself in the conference, and he was going to go and spend time at each one of these universities and try to get some superficial feel, and that's all you could get in 60 days, as to what the different campuses were like, what the people there were like, and try to get a feel for it. Because let's face it, it's the guy that's coming in that's a fresh-faced guy that I don't know. He probably could have named all the Big 12 schools and where they are and what cities they're in. So I like that. I do like the fact that he's a forward-thinking guy when it comes to what this TV thing might look like, and that seems to be the first and foremost in a lot of people's minds. Certainly from an administrator standpoint, at these different schools, is the Big 12 going to be one of those conferences that's going to be able to garner maybe that third best TV deal? And it certainly looks like they could be in position to do that.
Dave, Aranda's been around for a couple of years. You've watched him. We've talked about it, you and I, many different times, among others. How would college football be if there were like 100 of him?
My God, we'd be smart, wouldn't we? We would be a smart community if you had Dave Arandas everywhere. I don't know that we could take it. It'd be such a think tank, and it would be such a. I marvel at listening to him. I think Smokey, you and I have talked about how the first time we got a chance to talk to Aranda, it was like that old E.F. Hutton commercial. Remember how everybody kind of leaned in when he started to talk because there was words of wisdom going to drop out of this guy's mouth, and you got to make sure you're scooping all of it up. We, unfortunately, Ari Temkin, who's my partner on Big 12 Radio, Ari got into the philosophical side of things with him, and he was more than willing to go there as far as talking about development of young men, development of your program, and the deep thinking thoughts that go into that. And Dave certainly has given a lot of thought to what Baylor's supposed to look like, what he wants to do, and how he wants to continue to keep Baylor at the top of the program, not just the top of the conference, at the top of the country when it comes to football. I didn't get a chance to talk to him as much about football because if you go into football, I know you guys have done this, you get him talking about how to manipulate an offense defensively by showing a certain look, muddy the water for a quarterback, and the next thing you know, we're coming with a six-man pressure off the left side. He's marvelous at that as well. So I don't know there's enough accolades I could drop on Dave Aranda. Just so impressed with the guy. He's so involved with these young men's lives and how important it is for them to be good people. And then obviously that translates he thinks, and it has. And we saw it last year. That translates to the field because you can be counted on.
Dave, maybe you have a finger on this pulse better than I do, but we just kind of broached this on this expansion and everything in regards to something that Dave Aranda said about, conferences and big entities weaponizing their power. Have any of us in college football that aren't a TV network exec or a conference president asked for any of this as fans?
No, you're talking about the realignment thing?
Yeah, all the stuff that's going on, yeah.
Yeah, the thing that bothers me most about this is the thing that it seems to be pointing to, and I've talked a lot about this on Big 12 radio on Sirius XM, is the fact that it almost seems like the NFL model is a great one, and it makes billions and billions of dollars. We know that. The college football model is doing pretty good by itself as well, and we don't have to necessarily pay our players, or we've got to have some kind of 12-team playoff or anything, any NFL scenario there. We've been doing pretty good on our own as far as, but we're kind of trending towards that NFL model. So what's that look like? Okay, let's say we get 64 teams that end up being in 3 super conferences. Well, at some point, you're going to divide those teams up into divisions or pods to create a playoff structure where you're going to get 8 or 12 teams into a playoff. Don't we already have that?
Yeah.
Doesn't it already exist? It's called the Pac-12. It's called the Big 12. It's called the Big 10, the SEC, and the ACC. And then you get these odd-on teams that come out of the Power 5 that create some storylines like Cincinnati a year ago. But we already had that. So it's almost like we're reinventing the wheel here so I can get a little bit more money in the coffer, it seems to be. And it's mind-boggling and maddening to me, but hey, it's the direction we're going. We're still going to get play on Saturday, I guess.
Seems like a long road to just have the power that was in the hands of the NCAA away from the NCAA and doing it by yourself.
Yeah, and then you blame the NCAA for not doing anything when you took the power away from them in the first place. Yeah. What do you want them to do?
Dave, in terms of just the Big 12 conference, I feel like there's probably going to be a ton of podcasts, if there aren't already, just talking about all the storylines and far too many to address with you one by one. I mean, I think every team is kind of unique, but even with the OU Texas stuff that we know they're leaving here in the next couple of years, everybody's playing nice. You had reps, from the 4, or I guess a couple of the 4 new schools that were there. We saw the UCF guys hanging out. Just what kind of a sense did you get from the conference? Because to me, as dysfunctional as it can be quite often, it seems like everybody's respectful. Everybody kind of is sharing the same vision for right now, at least. And there's a lot of teams, almost all of them, that feel like they can be better this year. Your thoughts coming out of media days just overall on what to expect this season team-wide?
Yeah, I had a chance to visit with the BYU people there as well. You mentioned UCF was there, BYU was there, and I had a chance to visit with them for quite a while. You guys have a kind of a burgeoning maybe rivalry with BYU, having knocked them off in your place last year. I know the Bears go to play in Provo, which is a very difficult place to play. That's going to be a heck of a game to watch BYU and Baylor play this year early in the year. But I think that the thing that I took away the most is the optimism. It seems to reign always during this time, and then the uncertainty, because I would have liked to have seen or found something out at Big 12 Media Days that, well, Baylor's certainly going to walk away with the conference. Oh, I can see it. Okay, Oklahoma's good. I couldn't find it.
Yeah,
I couldn't. Everybody's got optimism. Everybody's got question marks. You look at you guys' team. Shapen's taken over. I think he's a tremendous player. Are there enough weapons around him? Do we know enough about his weapons? We know you're going to be pretty good along the offensive, defensive lines. Are you going to have a guy like Petrie or Terrell Bernard that can make plays? And those kind of questions that Baylor has, I think they probably feel like they have those guys. Just not a lot of experience, but those guys are there. That's what everybody else has as well. And so I think it's so intriguing in this conference. We can't just pick Alabama and Georgia are going to control things like they are in the SEC. Here, you're not sure. Is Venables' defense going to be any good?
Right.
Is Dylan Gabriel going to make the transition to Levy's offense after having been in it a couple of years ago? Does that work there? I mean, what's the quarterback situation look like at TCU with Sonny Dykes throwing it all over the field? Can Adrian Martinez make the changeover from Nebraska to a really good Kansas State team with weapons all over them? I mean, man, the storylines abound, guys. I'm so jacked up for the season, it's ridiculous.
Is Quinn Ewers actually good?
Great call.
Yeah.
That is a great call. I've been saying that for okay. Hey, Quinn Ewers, great high school player, tremendous high school. Nobody in the country was a good high school player. I mean, I don't know how this guy could play at the college level. We don't have any idea. And we're naming him like the sixth most likely to win the Heisman Trophy or something like that. It's ridiculous.
If everybody was right about recruiting all the time,
oh man,
that job would be really boring. And they'd be like, "Oh, this kid's right. You know, here we go. Yeah, we have no idea."
In the end, recruiting has kind of led to what people do when they win national titles with the big boy stars. But at the same time, there's a lot of great stories and teams and programs. Otherwise, why does Iowa State, Baylor, Kansas State, Tech, why do they even try? And it's very rewarding when they can play with the big boys and also have a chance, which is what I think college athletics should be about. Dave, your thoughts about the little bit of time that you were able to watch Blake Shapen, who now is the starter, Bohannon at USF, South Florida. What are your thoughts, and what did you see as a former quarterback with Blake Shapen?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, Smokey, is poise. Okay, and as a quarterback, there are so many intangibles that a quarterback has to have that it makes it the most difficult position to play in the game. But his ability to be poised in taking over for Gary Bohannon, who played extremely well last year, did a lot of really good stuff. All of a sudden, here's Shapen stepping in, and you would never – it didn't even feel like it phased him. And that's what I loved about it. I mean, obviously, the measurables are there. He's got a big arm. He's athletic enough to move around. He's going to be able to do some of the things you can do in the run game. I don't think you're looking for him to take off and run 60 yards for a touchdown, but he's going to be able to break you down, run for first downs, extend plays, get out of the pocket, those kind of things. But the leadership and the poise that I thought he showed late in the season to have to come in with Baylor making a championship run, a lot of pressure there, a lot of pressure to step in. These guys were all looking to him to take over, and he had not had a lot of play time. And for him to be able to step in and really for Baylor not to miss a beat and really maybe even be better in some areas with the accuracy, the way he throws the football and his ability to stretch it all over the field. That was what I was most impressed with. And I expect him to take the next step. And that's the big part about this is they made the decision. You know, Bohannon's gone, and now it's Shapen's crew, and he's got to take that next step to keep Baylor on top.
Dave, I wanted to close out with this. Texas and Oklahoma saw where Joe Castiglione and Chris Del Conte were at the THSCA meetings here in Texas yesterday.
Of course they were.
Yes.
Of course they were at the Texas high school meetings. Yeah, no question.
And they were asked about, the possibility of early exits and things like that, and they basically, toned down any talk about leaving early. And I know you can only believe so much because it is college athletics, and these two, after all, were, kind of – hey, everything's good, and the whole time we're negotiating an exit to the SEC or planning one. But do you feel like at this point that Texas and Oklahoma are in this thing to 2025, or are you still like a lot of other people who, let's see if it actually happens?
Yeah, I think I'm in the latter. I think that I don't trust that as far as I could throw it. I think that if there's going to be an exit, I think you're looking 24 seems to be kind of the drop dead time. That's Pac-12's. Their TV deal's up. Notre Dame's talked about doing something in 24 potentially. And I think that the feet are going to get a little hot for Notre Dame or for Oklahoma and Texas. They're going to want to move. And I'm not so sure, guys, that ESPN's not going to step to the plate and potentially expedite that scenario as well. They may get involved from an exit fee standpoint and help them along to move them. Obviously, Texas has got more money than Davy Crockett, so they're not really worried about trying to find the money, right? Yeah. So I think somehow they're going to find a way to get out. And I think 24 is kind of the drop-dead number.
Yeah, and as the years go off, the exit fees or whatever, and there's still some penalties and all that along the way, they could probably handle that a lot better. And who knows, Dave, and I don't know, but wouldn't surprise me if they also then say, hey, Big 12, let's let them leave a year early. Let's make sure they pay what they pay, but we'll also then do something with you coming up with your TV rights. Who knows? I mean, would not surprise me the way business is run. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. Great to have you on the show. Always great to be with you, Ari, Gabe, and others as well.
Well, we appreciate your contribution as you always bring us a lot of knowledge, Smokey. Appreciate you guys and what you do at 365. Sick of 365. Appreciate all you guys.
Thank you very much, Dave Archer, Sirius XM, Big 12 Radio Network. It's a great show. They have great guests. They have a lot of different people, analysts, whatever. We appreciate his time, former Iowa State and NFL quarterback. We'll have Matt Tate today, and he even told me, he put up a couple notes, just him talking at 4 o'clock. And I said, Matt, you know, our segments with you can go a little long. And we have to kind of pigeonhole it, but just from a writer and a columnist perspective, because he's got some things he likes to say too, and he'll join us at the top of the 4 o'clock hour.
You know, I did go back and listen to a little bit of Castiglione and Del Conte, and you know, I said yesterday when you brought it up, I hadn't even heard it yet. I had read the quotes, and I was saying exactly what he said. I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him, and that's not very far. Those are nearly my exact words, I think, and I just, you know, I refuse to believe 100% anything that those guys are saying or anyone else in college. Even Mac Rhodes, I'm not going to believe him fully. I mean, just not going to. But yeah, I felt like they said, you know, as best as they could, what they could say to kind of soothe fears that they're going to just bolt in the middle of the night again. But by the end of it, as well as I felt like they handled it, I still could not get away from that sneaking suspicion of there's just no way y'all are going to last till 2025. It's so hard to imagine. And if they do, what a damn miracle that would be for the Big 12. And, you know, that would be great in the long run in so many ways, but I also kind of wonder if here in a couple of years the Big 12 is also not sort of itching because of just the way things are configured at that point. So it'll be very interesting, but the thing that's crazy about it to me is they could very well not end up leaving until 2024, which means they're going to play this season and another season and another season. And what was it, like a year ago, right after they made their announcements, that people were like, they're going to be out of the Big 12 in a year. This will be their last season. And it's like, that's why you can't just believe every hot take on social media, because if it was social media hot takes, they'd already be playing in the SEC this season, right? Mm-hmm. They might play another 3 in the Big 12 for all we know. So that's why you got to let things play out sometimes.
I just wonder if they get that, you know, that schedule that they play for would be, to me, 1 year, because I think 2023 is still probably too early for them to get out and get into the SEC, and then 2 conferences have to redo their schedules and all that. But if they get that first schedule and like, we have to go to where now? All right, let's figure this out. And especially if in that time, you know, the Big 12 finds out that in 2025, they're going to have some other people that they didn't anticipate at the beginning of this too, that if there wasn't something that we worked out on that end, but, or, you know, the powers that be have a nuclear option.
I know we have a break here, and then do you want to go another couple of minutes and break at the end of the hour?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do
Here's
that.
Here's a text from the 213, and this is a guy that does, when he texts, there are times he and I absolutely don't agree on anything, and that's fine, but he's a very sharp guy. We have discussed Oregon, the Nike money, and Phil Knight, and we've talked about his age a few times. He turned it around a little bit differently. He goes, you guys do know he's worth $42 billion. His company, Nike, has the market cap of $175 billion and the most powerful sports brand in the world. If anyone thinks that Knight is going to sit down and watch Oregon get relegated into an inferior conference, then they do not understand the power of money. I don't think anyone's ever argued with that. This is a man that can write a check for the entire SEC TV annual contract, $300 million annually, and never blink an eye. This is not about money, though, for Knight. How much does he really love Oregon? We will soon find out. Keep in mind, he's 84 years old, which sometimes you look at, oh, my God, he's 84. What does he have to lose?
Well, that was kind of my point, though, is he's also 84 years old, and how much am I supposed to continue fearing him and not listening to Phil Knight? Like, I mean, I understand he's got all the money in the world, but when he inevitably passes at some point in the next 20-something years, give or take, are they still that same Oregon? I mean, I know he'll leave them money, and I know they'll still be the Nike school, and I know they'll still have cool uniforms, and I know they'll still be way out there in the Northwest, and I know that all of that will all remain the same, and they'll still have the Seattle market and Portland, and some of, I'm sure, the Seattle market and then just that Northwest corner. But is it the same without Phil Knight's back, like his there and kicking backing? And that's the one thing I question, but I don't think anybody questions the amount of money he has. I would just say that if he can do all that, then he's probably going to need to do that soon based on the way things are going. But, you know, they're not in the worst spot by any means in the Pac-12, and I think that if they added value, they'd be very enticing for the Big 12. But he's 85 with a big bankroll, but he's 85. And, you know, at some point that's going to come to an end.
That also question remains is, okay, how much does Phil Knight love Oregon? Which means he can leave them an endowment. He can give them some money.
I'm sure he will.
And he already has done it. They already have money from Phil Knight. They already get money from Phil Knight. But how much do Phil Knight's heirs love Oregon. How much of that money are they getting? Because now, I mean, look at if you look around. I mean, look at Warren Buffett. You know, his kids are going to be fine, but they're not getting it all. I mean, he's kind of said that his money's going to different places, and so how much do the rest of Phil Knight's family love Oregon? Because if they decide that it's not that big a deal to them, then that Nike money can go away real quick.
I understand all that. Here's the thing. I cannot imagine anything, no matter what anyone thinks may happen in the future, in a year, 2, or 10, that Oregon or Washington or a lot of other schools that appear to be that they're on the bubble or outside the bubble with this Super 2, as Craig's called it, not being able to have a chance to play for a national championship. I know that what everyone thinks or the trending and the thoughts, I can't imagine that ever being a scenario.
The way it currently stands right now, you're going to tell me they're going to go play for a national title. I understand, well, hey, if you look at the playoff and the fact that there's only been this many teams from these other conferences, yeah, well, Clemson won a title. Oregon's been in the playoff. TCU and Baylor have knocked on the playoff door. Oklahoma State would have been in if they won the Big 12 title last. I mean, there's numerous dozens of examples where the Pac-12, ACC, Big 12 could have either been in, played for it, have won it, what have you, and you're just going to eliminate all of those teams. And just so, no Oregon, no FSU, no Miami, no Baylor, no TCU, no. I mean, I know some of those you say, okay, well, who cares about TCU or Baylor? I think the best thing for these two schools, those two schools in particular, is they are in the state of Texas, and that market's not going to start downsizing anytime soon. So I do think those are valuable brands moving forward. And while you've heard even a TCU be on the tip of the tongue of people who, go rumor realignment with, well, hey, if the Big Ten wants to get into Texas, there's teams down there. If the Pac wants to raid the Big 12, who are they going after? They're going after Texas teams, right? They're going for that market. So I think, there's a lot of strengths out there outside of that Super 2 that to just throw them to the wayside and act like they're going to go play for some D2 title. No, I'm not going to buy that. I'm not going to buy just whoever emerges from that as being the national champion when they haven't played half the country or even competed on the same level with half the country. And I know there will be that argument, well, they do that anyways. But no, not really. They really don't. I find that hard to believe as well, that you would leave out so many wanting and excited for the sport and ready to pony up and watch and pay and whatever. I mean, we're talking millions of fans ultimately that you're just, I guess, then again, you hear the comments from Bill Hancock. Did you hear those, Paul?
No, I did not.
We asked Bill Hancock, chair, right, of the College Football Playoff Committee, who let us know the College Football Playoff Committee is not changing, or the playoffs not changing anytime soon, obviously. But he sat with us there in Arlington. We asked him some questions about just rumors we've heard before about, the fact that Baylor and TCU are too small really to ever get a playoff invite unless they just leave no doubt about it. But if it ever comes to, let's go with Ohio State, Miami, whoever, versus TCU Baylor, guess what? They're going to lose that battle every single time if everything's even.
He denied that.
He denied that the size matters, and he denied that, fan base matters, and I don't buy that for a single freaking second. I don't believe him. I don't believe him, as courteous as he was. I don't believe him.
Bill Hancock is a very courteous man, but Bill Hancock is a lobbyist.
Yeah.
So by nature, he's not to be believed because he's only his money comes from being a shill.
Let him get to the second part that really blew us up.
Most egregious thing that this man who's in charge of the college football playoff said to us, to our face, and then I was kind of somewhat stunned, and I also knew we were low on time, so I didn't really want to follow it up with anything, but he talked about all that. And so you're telling me that we're going to just get rid of whoever's left over who's not invited to the Super 2. They're just not going to matter. Well, according to Bill Hancock, that would be okay. Not that that premise was exactly what we proposed to him, but in theory, that would be okay because according to him, college football fans are just going to sit around and watch anyways. I mean, how else did he phrase it? It's not going to matter.
That fans will lose their interest, and they will all end up like. And there's a story about NASCAR doing too much too early, too quick. But he said they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere. College football fans aren't going anywhere, even if we take their team out of playoff eligibility. I mean, that was for all intents and purposes what he said. So, Oregon fan, even if Oregon doesn't get an invite to the Super 2, they're still going to stick around and watch. Baylor fans will still stick around and watch. TCU fans will still stick around. I don't think so. I really do not think so.
That is the hubris of money.
Exactly.
That is the absolute ridiculous hubris of money.
Exactly.
And this is why, and look, Bill Hancock's very polite, and I've met him several times. But I will tell you, he's full of crap.
Yes.
Because he's a lobbyist, and that kind of hubris is what gets you burned. Because eventually, history shows us this through many walks of life. The minute that you say, everybody's going to come with me no matter what, I'm super cool, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, we got you guys all making great points. The chat room's fantastic. Sandra Green, who's a UT fan and wants to talk about the power of eyeballs in markets and who owns Waco or Lubbock. They don't decide the games. Scoreboards are not decided by eyeballs. Maybe the future will be. Conference championships are not decided by who has the most fans or the most money, and neither are national championships. And if Texas and Oklahoma want to pay their exit fees and their rights and all of the other that goes with it, go. And until they do, shut up and play at least another year, 2 or 3. And that's not against UT and Oklahoma. They're very important for the Big 12 moving forward as long as they're a part of the conference.
And I don't think anybody with their right mind is arguing why UT is going to the SEC or why Oklahoma is going to the SEC. But, let's not brag about, fan base sizes. I mean, they don't award trophies for that last I checked.
Otherwise, Wisconsin and others, if Texas, if it's decided by that, and UT has a great history, but so do a lot of other programs in recent years have just been junk, including my favorite program, and Paul's alma mater. When we come back, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. If you have not hit the like button, we appreciate that. If you want to do a super chat, you sure don't have to, but we appreciate that. Biscuits and Gravy did earlier. Coming up, Matt Tate from the Lawrence Journal World Journal, next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, got a lot of great deals going on right now over at Richard Carr. They are the people you can count on and have been able to count on for over 20 years in Central Texas. And they have a lot of new and a lot of used and a lot of deals going on right now over at Richard Carr. They want you to step up your ride with the Summer Savings event. You can find summer savings like a 2018 GMC Sierra SLT, only $432 a month, or a 2017 Buick Encore for $183 a month. They've also got 2018 GMC Acadia, only $280 a month. And all of their new and pre-owned vehicles go through a 172-point inspection. And those are just some of the offerings when it comes to their pre-owned vehicles. When it comes to those pre-owned vehicles, to ensure that you get in there and get into that ride as fast as possible, get on their inbound vehicle list. Don't wait any longer. Get on that inbound vehicle list if you know that you are wanting to get into a new ride specifically. And by doing so, you basically place yourself in line to be the next up, first come, first serve for your vehicle of choice when that does arrive to the dealership. So if you're in the mode of, hey, I want a new car, contact the dealership today, whether in person or over the phone. Tell them you want on that inbound vehicle list. Get that placeholder. Get your name in line. If you're looking, however, to get into something today, they've got those pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs. Some of those deals on those pre-owns, I just rattled off there at the beginning, but there are plenty more that you can check out in person or online over at richardcar.com. If you need a car today, you need one of those pre-owns, they have dozens of them. Quality, all gone through a 172-point inspection, so you can drive them with peace of mind, and they will pay top dollar on your trade with dozens of lending options. They will say yes to loans when others say no. So again, go online or come by to check out their inventory today. Trust the good local people you can count on for 23 years in Central Texas. Run by proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcar.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links, and you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
We will, at 4:20, is normally on Tuesdays. Mac Rhodes, he's been out the last couple of weeks. He's back, and he will join us tomorrow on many things and update us on what he can when it comes to the Big 12 and the future and all that. And also a lot of what he's been involved with. But he's out until tomorrow, so we're going to do a segment next on the mascots and how a lot of people have reacted to Judge Joy Reynolds, who passed away, one of the Baylor's mascots yesterday. It's pretty cool, some of the tweets and stuff. We'll have that at 4:20. Matt Tate joins us. He, of course, covers college athletics, covers KU, and covers the Big 12 quite a bit. Had an article today, Pendulum Swings Back Towards Big 12 in the Race to an Uncertain Future with the Pac-12. Matt, thanks for your time. Did you ever think there was ever any life at all or a dead man walking when it comes to the Pac-12 and Big 12 kind of a merger?
No, I never saw that. I mean, I guess with conference realignment, you never say never. That's one thing we have learned. I mean, obviously there's some desperation in play, and I do think now, probably more than the first couple of rounds, people are trying to think a little bit more creatively and looking at all options and trying to say, well, maybe we could pull this off, or maybe we could try this, or maybe we could do that. I mean, again, I think the desperate nature of some of these conferences and some of these schools kind of leads to that. But I never saw the full merger make sense at all for the Big 12. And I mean, I'm following it the best I can. I'm trying to research it a little bit, but I'm not a TV executive. I don't know the intimate details of all of that. I mean, the best we can do is just kind of, figure out what we can learn about the process and make some educated guesses unless we get good information from good sources. So, that based on all that, I just didn't see the value to go full merger. I think it makes a ton of sense for the Big 12 to want to add a few teams from the Pac-12 because that's twofold, right? It's not only adding value to your conference and adding a little bit of stability and growing it and all of that stuff, but it's also basically a kill shot to the Pac-12, and you're eliminating, one of your direct competitors. So I don't see any reason not to do that, and I think that's where it seems like this is headed.
If Kansas fans had their druthers, I know that a lot of them would say they would be in the Big Ten, but that seems less likely as each realignment domino falls. But from Kansas's perspective, how do fans see this working out for them?
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, they had been in the Big Ten, 6 months ago, and 6 months ago I might have told you they had a shot, but now that this thing's gotten crazy and is really rolling again, the more conversations I've had with people out there, the less likely I think it is for Kansas to ever wind up in the Big Ten. I mean, again, never say never. There are a couple of things working in KU's favor that might make them, and I emphasize might, but might make them an attractive option for the Big Ten eventually, someday. But there are some things working against them too, and obviously that's football. I think most people around here think the arrow is pointing in the right direction with football, but there's still work that needs to be done on the stadium. There's still work that needs to be done on the field. And until you can kind of, I guess, buy some time to get those things in a little bit more, consistent and solid shape, it's going to be a hard sell. And, of course, around here, everyone thinks the basketball program can save them. But it just doesn't work that way. I mean, the basketball program's a great brand. It's obviously one of the best of all time, historic, coming off the national title, all that stuff. But we know that football drives this thing when it comes to realignment and revenue. And I think the Kansas perspective is that, hey, look, if we could ever get football going, even just reasonably well, it doesn't have to be a 10-win program every year, but 6-7 wins, competing for bowl spots, things like that. I think that the administration believes that their potential for being one of the top revenue generators in all of college athletics is really, really high because they already compete at a pretty high level with basketball carrying the weight. So there's so much more money to be made with football and more potential there that if they can just get that thing flipped around, I think they really like where they sit. But again, it's a big if. It's been a tough decade in that regard, and they've missed on a bunch of opportunities and haven't been able to get the job done. So even though the arrow's pointed up, I think it's going to be really hard for people to say, hey, let's take Kansas. They're going to get it turned around. I mean, I think people are going to need to see it before they commit to that.
Matt, I know you had an article out a few days ago, but looking back to Big 12 media days, Brett Yormark comes in and he was doing an interview with us, and I mean, Smokey straight up asked him, have you offered, or what I think you said offered, anybody outside as far as expansion goes? And here we learned, yesterday, that there was at least talks ongoing with the Pac-12. Merger was the talk, but, ultimately nothing happens there. But he was very clear. I mean, he's open for business, as he said. I enjoyed hearing what he had to say. How about you?
I loved it. I think it's exactly what the conference needs. I think he's aggressive. I think he's, experienced in all the right ways. I think he's inexperienced when it comes to college athletics, but that's something you can learn. And you can use the people around you, which, the Big 12 office has a bunch of veteran type people that he can lean on as he's learning. So I think the entertainment side of him, I think the, thinking outside of the box part of him, I think his aggressive nature, I think all of that stuff's going to be really, really beneficial for the conference. And, I loved how he kept saying, we need to build the Big 12 brand, but he also, every time he said that, he added and business, because it is a business. And anybody that's trying to pretend it's not anymore is obviously way off the mark. And so for them to have an aggressive leader who's not afraid of any challenges and not afraid of pushing any buttons and going after whatever he thinks is best, that kind of personality combined with a guy who understands that this is a business and needs to be run like a business, I think that can only be good news for the conference in the future. And look, how cool is that, right? That he's talking to Phil Knight, right? Like, the merger's not happening, but that's the man. That is the king of the castle at Nike and the new Big 12 commissioner who hasn't even started yet, having a conversation about the future. I mean, that's if you're a Big 12 person, fan, coach, administrator, student, whatever it is, if you're a Big 12 person, that's the kind of stuff you want to hear happening. And that's not to say Bowlesby was, in any way bad. I think Bob Bowlesby was consistent, solid, stable. He brought a lot of things that the conference needed at a really critical time, but he never struck me as someone who was going to be that, let's pen our ears back and go get something and go be aggressive. And I think Yormark is that guy. And so I think, the future looks really good with him in charge. There may be some bumps, an aggressive personality like that. It's not always smooth sailing, but you can definitely get the sense that he's gonna be sort of in attack mode. And that's not just saying that with regard to, trying to add schools. I think that's in everything. I think that's in their television contract negotiations. I think that's with new media streaming opportunities, NIL. I just think he's going to be, full force ahead, attacking every challenge that's in front of him. And you got to like that personality and that East Coast persona that's going to be driving the ship on that. I think the Big 12, we'll see. We'll find out. In 5 years, we could be really wrong. But I think at least right now it was exactly the kind of hire they need to make. And now that I've heard from him and got to, be around him a little bit, I get the feeling that he's the perfect guy too, not just the right hire, but the perfect guy.
Yeah, he mentioned that when I asked that question back last week, but also the question was, do you know where the money is? And that seemed like a simple question, but his answer wasn't just yes, I know everything. It was not only that, but the way he answered it by bringing up things like bandwidth and other ways of getting money and revenue, which is not breaking or news or any kind of like new information, but the way he responded to that, to me, was very interesting. And I think that might be as much of a value that he has as anything, that he does know where there are some other revenue streams that perhaps are old or not old school, but new. And I love that part. Matt, I know we got to go. You mentioned one thing in your story, though, where you thought that if things go right and if the Big 12 does stabilize or whatever else with Yormark, that you could even see their annual money going up from what was 42.6 into a pretty high level of what you've seen, or you've seen other reports of 50, 60, 70 million?
Yeah, I don't know that that's obviously, it would probably be incremental is what I understand. They could get to that number type of thing. I don't think that's next year or even 2 or 3 years away, but I think it's exactly what you just talked about, the new revenue streams of different media and new contracts and new partners and things like that. One of the things I read, and I wish I could remember where, I've been reading so much lately that it kind of all blends, and I regret that because I should keep it straight. But one of the things that I read recently was that there's speculation out there that the Big 12 at some point, whether that's a couple years from now, 5 years from now, whatever it is, could have contracts with as many as 4 television networks and maybe 3 or 4 streaming services. So to me, that opens up a lot, right? If you're still locked in with Fox and ESPN for any kind of tier 1 deal, you're going to make some money. There's going to be money there. And Yormark's made it clear he's not adding Pac-12 teams if they don't add value. So you got to figure that if that stabilizes and that's where they move, you're going to at least be in that 40 million range with those two, at least, Fox and ESPN, kind of like you've had all along. But if you can open up that tier 2 thing with some streaming networks and beyond ESPN Plus, right? We're talking about Apple TV or Hulu or Paramount or whatever it is. I read somewhere, and I regret not remembering where, but I read somewhere that alone, that tier 2 stuff could be worth $20 million a year for all of the schools, depending on how high the number of the roster goes. So, you add 42 that they've got now to 20 from the streaming new revenue, and all of a sudden you're at 60. And again, that could be 2, 3, 5, 10 years away. But if that's where they're headed, if that's where his vision is taking them, it's not the 100 million plus of the Big Ten and the SEC, but 60 sure sounds like something that a lot of these Big 12 programs could absolutely live with and get by on and feel pretty darn good about, because it's continuing to grow what they've already been used to, and that only opens up more doors. And there's just nothing not to like about that. It's got to happen. And there's a lot of talk and negotiation and handshakes and compromise and all that stuff that has to take place between now and whenever that is. But the idea that that's even possible is showing you what the potential is here and why it may be worth adding a few of those Pac-12 schools if that's something that can happen. So it's fascinating time. It really is.
Matt, thanks for your time, man. We appreciate it. Matt Tate, again, covers Kansas, but also Big 12 and college athletics, the Lawrence Journal-World, with us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Well, Paul's checking with our next guest who was trying to call in, and Matt, thank you. Garrett, let's go to those 4 tweets that were from earlier today. One, yesterday, and other schools have incredible mascots, animals, Bevo, Tiger, Mike, all of, we talked about Ralphie yesterday at Colorado. Joy passed away yesterday, one of the Baylor mascots. Here's a tweet from Kevin Gall, who's a part of athletics at Baylor administration. Today I learned that live mascot to live mascot condolence Twitter is something that hits me in my feelings. And this is definitely a sentence I never imagined typing, but here I am on a Tuesday finding out new layers to myself. Anyway, thanks to the Butler Blue. And the reason he put this up was because Butler Blue, who's the Bulldog mascot of Butler University, had put something up. And now here's Mike the Tiger mascot Twitter to Baylor on the loss of your bear Joy. That was pretty cool. And then Bevo, the Silver Spurs and Bevo, offer condolences to Baylor.
15.
Yeah, 15. Baylor and also the Habitat passing of Judge Joy Reynolds. So that was pretty cool. And if you have a university, an alma mater that has any kind of mascot, you know the history, the tradition. We're now joined by Kevin Jackson, Baylor Vice President, Student Life, who joins us. Kevin, thanks for your time. Have you been blown away by some of the reactions to the loss of one of Baylor's mascots in Judge Joy Reynolds?
Oh, it has just been amazing to see people reach out and share their condolences and their encouragement to us.
Kevin, what is, for people who are watching us from all over and may not even know how the process with mascots work, what is it at Baylor that people can come and see the mascots? What's the process of, taking care of the bears that you guys do?
Sure. Well, first of all, we have a bear habitat that is a Class C zoo. I mean, it's an outstanding facility right in the heart of our campus that's designed to take extraordinary care of our bears and at the same time give visitors a chance to see our bears in a natural habitat. In addition to that, we have a student-led student group that does educational programming all about American black bears, and so they're constantly educating the public on our black bears and on their natural habitat. And so we just go out of our way to be able to help people understand not only what it means to have live mascots, and it's just amazing, our bears and what they symbolize and the tradition and spirit of Baylor. But it's also an opportunity for us to educate the public on bears, particularly American black bears.
Kevin, you obviously mascots move on. They are animals. They have their lifespan, and then they're gone. And in this case, Judge Joy Reynolds, what's next now? I read where there are the opportunities for you to adopt a couple of black bears. How does that work?
Sure. Well, first, Lady is the sister to Joy. Lady's a year younger than Joy, and Lady will continue to fulfill her mascot role with us, and we're appreciative of that. We've referred to her as our miracle bear. She went through a couple of years ago some pretty significant health difficulties and was able to come back from that. So we'll continue with Lady as our mascot. Also, during this upcoming year, we're going to start to look at bringing on, as you've mentioned, 1 or 2 rescue cubs. And that's a process we'll go through. There are a number of agencies across the country who place cubs that have been orphaned or who have been born, and there's not a home for them. So we'll be working with those different agencies as we plan for the future and re-engage in a tradition of bringing bears back on campus as cubs, introducing them to the habitat, to the role of being our bear mascot, and just really embracing this transition that we see on the horizon.
What was something else? We mentioned some tweets from some of the mascot Twitter feeds, whatever, Kevin. Is there anything else in particular you want to share with what you learned or who contacted Baylor or you?
Sure. Yeah, it's scrolling through the condolences and the individuals who are writing in. I think what struck me, saw a lot of pictures of students, alumni of Baylor when they were here on campus, pictures of them with the Bears, pictures of the Bears, at the habitat, a lot of reminiscing about, one person, I remember reading their tweet, they talked about how almost daily they would stop by the habitat on the way either to or from classes and just sit and watch the Bears. And so just a lot of reminiscing about interactions with the Bears, what the Bears mean to our students, to our alumni, to our guests. So I think that's the thing that struck me most. And it's just reflective of how this mascot program that we have here at Baylor impacts the lives of those who come onto our campus or those who go to our great university.
Were you always disappointed when it got to the point where the Bears could not and no longer be on the sideline of football games?
Well, it was one of those kind of situations where there was some disappointment. Yet at the same time, I also understood, when you have Bears on the sidelines, there are certain considerations you have to keep in mind about that, right? Both for the health of the bear, health and safety of the bear, and the health and safety of those who are around. So I certainly I missed some aspects of that, but at the same time, I understand why that had to happen.
What and this is me and asking a question, and I know, Kevin, you got to go, and we do too. What's the life expectancy of a black bear?
American black bears in their natural habitat, the expectancy is typically 18 to 19 years. The same type of bear in captivity, they can live as long as 25 years. But when they get into their start to move towards their 20s, it becomes a later stage of their life.
All right, you've done a lot of interviews, I'm sure, and I know we appreciate your time for giving us today to discuss it and also the history and tradition of the Baylor Bear mascots. And thanks for your time.
Hey, thank you so much. Sick 'em Bears.
Kevin Jackson, Baylor's Vice President, Student Life. You think about the schools who have live mascots, there's a ton. There's a ton. This is Sick 'em 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Craig and Off the Radar, just around the corner. We are back with 365 Sports, and thanks to all of you in the chat room and tweets. Right now, the text line at 254-339-1122. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center just off Valley Mills in Waco, where you can find and will find a 48-foot walk-in humidor with some of the great brands of cigars throughout. Not have a little bit of a sweet flavor or taste to it. It was La Fontana, a Churchill length. They also have CBD products that you can rub on soreness or anything that aches and pains, and the CBD product, the gummies, that you can also take at night when you're about to go to bed and all of a sudden you fall asleep a lot easier and maybe save yourself 30 minutes or longer of tossing and turning. There's nothing more miserable when you have so much on your mind and you can't fall asleep with a big day the next morning. It's Carol, Ashley, and Cheyenne. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the city of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
19-year-old true freshman quarterback stepping in for the injured Matt Corral, and then being brought down. Bryson Jackson with the sack and the turnover on downs.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
To try to distract everybody from when you get fan bases going back and forth, which is great, on the chat room, which live mascot in college sports would win a cage match?
I mean, I'm leaning towards Mike the Tiger because tigers are pretty tough. I don't think the Gators have. I mean, they might have
Wolverines,
but they don't have one anymore.
No, you're right.
Saw a video the other day randomly of like an elephant or something just stomping the mess out of an alligator. And after I saw that, it kind of took them down a couple of notches. If we were having a water war, then Florida would be right there. But
Jaguar will tear. Yeah, they tear up alligators too. So,
yeah, there you go. So who would that benefit? South Alabama. South Alabama, probably. I think, is the Jaguars. I think I'm right about that. I think like a healthy big black bear would be,
it'd be hard to beat.
It would be a pretty high up there candidate.
Anybody with a dog or a cow, it's got to be worried,
Like if you're Bevo, you got to kind of have to hope that it's somebody you can, it's not real quick. So you can just stick them with that horn real quick, I guess. But, the Dogs would.
How about the Montana Grizzlies?
The Grizzlies would be right there at the very top. Like, I mean, maybe 1B, but it would be right up there near the very top for sure.
From BU Bear on the chat room, by the way, the old Bear almost took off Shasta, University of Houston's Cougars' ear back in the 80s. Georgia almost bit Robert Baker of Auburn in the 96 overtime. Remember, Bevo went after Uga.
Yeah.
I mean, that was close. See, how about Bevo?
So now does mine count? My mascot is a horse with a guy on it. So does
so is Texas Tech.
He's got a spear. So does that count?
Not a part of the body.
Not a part of. Okay.
It has to be attached to the.
Better than only having a schooner, I guess.
I guess. So.
Although you can run over people, I suppose. I mean, I don't know. It's all sorts of different types of war and weapons.
I mean, the spear is on fire too. So like one side, you got weapons on either side. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Ralphie the Buffalo is always brought up.
I wouldn't want to mess with a buffalo. I'll tell you right now.
Bayou Bull. Tulsa's got a hurricane, but again, that
that'd be hard to deal with.
Red-tailed hawk.
University
of Utah.
Bulldogs are in trouble here. Let's just say that Bulldogs are in trouble. It's not going to go very well for them. Husky probably not great. Sorry, UConn, Washington. But as cool as those dogs are, they're not lasting against Mike the Tiger or Judge or Joy the Black Bear. R.I.P. But
I know who would beat Paul in a cage match. Any kind of bird mascot.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Hey, I'll tell you this. Let me tell you about Hawaii real quick. There are live chickens in Kauai, especially everywhere, just walking around. Roosters. And at the hotel, I'm sitting at dinner one night, and I had to ask the waitress, there's a lot of little kids running around. Roosters are very territorial. They were fighting. She goes, oh, yeah, it's not great.
They're bad, dude.
But yeah, they're bad. And so it happens. But the birds in Hawaii are in no way afraid of people at all. So I had to kind of adjust my fears. And Amanda is worse than I am when it comes to it. I know that's hard to believe, but way worse when it comes to the fear of birds. Maybe that's why we're a match. But yeah, they're all over the place.
At North Dakota State Bison. Here's one. Here's an underdog.
You're right there with Ralphie,
Cinderella is Puddles the duck.
Puddles would have trouble. Puddles would be in trouble. That would certainly be a Cinderella pick, though. But yeah, Puddles would have a
Stanford doesn't count. Javelinas, Texas A&M. What is it? Kingsville. Aren't they the Javelinas?
Yeah, they're pesky. I don't know how much they're winning fights against tigers and whatnot, though. So I know two people now who are scared of birds, and they happen to get married. That's weird. That's only two people I know that I've ever heard of scared of birds.
Tell you bond.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, whatever
Was that
it takes,
one of the
man.
first communication things about, like, birds?
You know what? She said she was afraid of birds. Now, my fear of birds is not necessarily one bird unless there's one bird in this room, because then he's caged and it's bad. If it's one bird outside, he's got plenty of room to go and not chase me. My fear is large flocks of birds.
Like when you see them on all the light posts at shopping centers.
But we were in Nashville, and this bird landed right in front of her, and she jumped behind me, and had there been a car in that parking lot, she'd have thrown me in front of it. So, yeah, it is.
Did you take care of the bird?
I mean, as I stumbled, it was like, what the hell, and flew away. I didn't want this guy to fall on me.
Here's a couple of the text lines. JT in Pikes Peak. JT, always great to hear from you from day one. Bears are apex predators.
Yeah, they're right there near the top. I mean, they'd be right up there, especially if you're talking, even the fiercer like Grizzlies, of course, they're right up there near the.
So is there
Joel said it would be great to get Mike Leach on and ask him about who wins a mascot
the whole segment.
Cage match.
I mean, do a whole hour with him just talking random stuff.
Yeah.
I saw him talking today. Who was he poking fun with?
Was it about Netflix or?
No, it was about Brian Kelly. There was a Netflix thing, I think, too, but no, he was talking about Brian Kelly. He wasn't talking about the accent or anything, but he was poking fun at. He's like, I didn't realize he always talks so slow, like he just woke up every time. Well, he's like, I didn't realize he's such a good dancer. Something along those lines that he got into, just having fun with it. So, great to see Leach at Media Days. I need to check out more of what's been going on there. It doesn't seem like there's been a bunch of massive headlines coming out of SEC Media Days as much as there was just yesterday or as much as there might be over the next couple of days. But then again, they're a bit more squared away than the other conferences that are taking up a lot of the headlines because they're not squared away at the moment, which does lead me to a question, if y'all don't mind, is there's now a lot of, what's next? The Pac-12 and Big 12 are obviously not going to merge. And you see Pac-12 folks who are kind of scrambling for information on what that might entail. I know there was at least some report out there, that the revenue sharing and what that might look like if Oregon and Washington were to stay in the Pac-10 and, how that would go. But there's also the talk of, reigniting the alliance talk with the ACC and the Pac-12 because, at this point, the Big 12 is a no-go. So that option's totally off the table. We know that now. You can eliminate that one. But we never entirely eliminated the whole ACC Pac-12 coming together, although it never really made a ton of sense to me in the first place because I just think the money thing is kind of a hard deal to figure out. The ACC's got this long contract, but how does that play into your contract coming up? Does that fold into? How does that affect values? It seems like it would be kind of complicated, and you wouldn't really be one conference. So I don't know, but let's say the Big 12 were to stay pat. Here's my question. The Big 12 is not joining with the Pac-12. So the Pac-12 somehow hooks up an alliance with the ACC, which seems like probably their best bet is to basically stay alive at this point. Or I guess they could go at San Diego State and whoever else to round out if you want to. But let's say they join up with the ACC because that's just something that's been thrown out there. How does that, if that at all, change the Big 12 and how they look moving forward?
If they did, it wouldn't probably be good for them because then they've got to work the TV deal. But I think the silver lining there is it makes even less sense for them to hook up with the ACC than it does with the Big 12. And if that were reasonably viable, I think that they probably would have gone to the ACC first, given that the ACC has a long-term TV contract that they could negotiate and enter into.
But that's what's confusing about the reporting on it all is how would that even work? ESPN signed them up through 2036. The Pac-12's coming up here now, basically.
24.
So, I know the idea originally that was thrown out there was we'd have non-conference matchups. It's we have those anyway, so who cares? That does absolutely nothing. That's nothing new.
Ross Dellinger, SI.com, all these partnerships seem so unlikely. And then he went into a story he wrote, and he said, including this one, yes, the ACC and Pac-12, and he has a story up on SI.com about it. And
I think that
some
might
of the
be
bullet holes
from a few days ago.
No, it is.
Yeah.
But he said, and again, all these partnerships we hear just seem so unlikely.
And I'm not just asking that from the Big 12 perspective because I am looking at it from one standpoint of, okay, the Big 12 could find itself perhaps getting boxed out to an extent. If all of a sudden, let's say somehow or another the ACC and the Pac are able to come up with this alliance of sorts, well, then you're behind the Big 10 and the SEC already, and that's not changing. But then where would you be in the grand scheme of things if there was an ACC-Pac conference of some sort and what that would even look like? But I'm also looking at it from the Pac-12 perspective. You're looking at where your lifelines are now, right?
Yep.
They're not in the Big 12. They don't appear to be in the SEC or in the Big 10. As much as Oregon and Washington and Stanford and Cal and all that rumor about, going to the Big 10 or what, they're waiting on Notre Dame. Notre Dame really is still the wild card of wild cards.
Sure it is.
And I feel like they can almost go unmentioned, but they probably should be mentioned because if they were to make a move, then that does change the entire structure and what might happen. But if you're the Pac and the Big 12 thing is shut down, you can revisit the ACC or visit with the ACC about what that could potentially look like. But kind of what are your options here? You're sort of, I don't know, grasping at straws a little bit, it feels like.
And then maybe that leads to, there is at least the thought that things calm down and you have the bigger conferences and everyone else just kind of finds a way to survive and you hope that you get a new contract or whatever.
You are getting one, and you're getting it soon because your contract's running out.
Well, that will answer the questions. That'll answer a lot of the questions as well. But that's why I think right now there's a lot of mud being thrown against the wall, And some of it sticks, and some of it falls to the ground, and some of it should never have been thrown in the first place. And there's a lot of speculation out there at this particular time. Somebody also wanted to bring up who's the school in Florida? Is it A&M, the Rattlers?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Strike Rattlers.
Yeah.
Love them.
And so their name was brought up as well. UAB is the Blazers, but their mascot's a dragon.
Well, yeah, so.
A dragon would, I think,
that would be number one.
If you can fictionally do this.
Here's a text. Hey, guys, Gene from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Gene, thank you. I moved to West Texas about 2 years ago. I just want to say, really enjoy the show. Thank you. Listen every day, get real information. I'm a true Penn State and West Virginia fan. But I will say I wish West Virginia had decided people like yourselves. I'm really tired of all the nonsense with who had the great resources and scoop on what's going on. Keep up the great work. You have a fan from Pennsylvania. When you play West Virginia, I still want West Virginia to win. I would like to call in one day and join the chat. Take care. Keep up the good work. We will have the phones open at some point, probably in the next day or two. So thank you again, Gene from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. All right, Mike, Florida A&M Rattlers. That's the one he mentioned. When we come back, Craig Smoak's off the radar. In the 5 o'clock hour, a guest who covers Clemson on their NIL, and Chris Level, who is a sideline reporter, broadcast basketball for Tech, and what they announced yesterday. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Your comfort is their priority. Dr. Steve Childress and Stonewood Dental in Robbinsdale, where I go and get my dental work, whether it's been emergency surgery or to get a root canal or something that's bothering me, where he's had to numb me on a Friday night after his job is supposed to be done, and then you turn around and I come back the next Monday morning and he takes care of everything else. I mean, this guy has really been amazing, his customer service for me. One-stop shop for your dental needs. This is what they do. Specialized fillings, crowns, sealants, periodontal therapy, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, fluoride, implants, bridges, dentures, partials, treatment of TMJ, full mouth restoration, and biostatic dentistry. All of that is what they do. And what Dr. Childress and his staff do. Priority to make sure you're comfortable. It's never something you want to go to a dentist when you know you might have a filling or a cavity or a root canal or something that really hurts where you can't even bite into some food. He's taking care of me with that. He will take care of you with that. You tell him I sent you. Dr. Steve Childress and his amazing staff at Stonewood Dental, stonewood-dental.com.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Salsa drap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's summertime. There's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do. And Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular at being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon wrap filet. And of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. So it's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well, with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need, from knickknacks to snacks to more, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right, welcome to Off the Radar here on Sikkim 365. And for those who are perhaps just joining us for the first time, because we haven't done this segment in a few days, it's Off the Radar, taking a look at some stories outside the normal storylines that we discuss. So not as much college football, although if there is something that's a bit off the radar, there will be a college football mention. But just taking a look at the world of sports and kind of what is of interest or worth throwing out there for a couple of comments, a grab bag, if you will. And let's start off with Major League Baseball and the fact that the All-Star Game is later on tonight. It's kind of a slow time, actually, in comparison to where we were just a few weeks ago in terms of live sports programming. I mean, there was that rush there, May, or so, where it seemed like everything was going on all at once. But last night they did host the annual Home Run Derby, and the Nationals' Juan Soto, your 2022 Home Run Derby champion. He takes home the crown out at Dodger Stadium. Bested the young rookie superstar for the Mariners and Julio Rodriguez, who's a sensational player. But yeah, Juan Soto, your Home Run Derby champ. And just curious, there was a bunch of different stats thrown out. I saw a bunch of people. I saw Josh Hamilton references, people talking about how great the Derby was back then. And so I don't know if it's like getting old or my interest isn't as high as it was or whatever, but how much of an interest was sparked in you with the Home Run Derby this year?
Okay, because I know you got a history of this, Paul. I used to watch it. It used to intrigue me. I just, maybe it was because it was new. I don't know how long they've been doing this, but I liked it. But it's gotten almost too complicated for me.
Oh, I love the new format. I think it makes it a little bit better, and it shortens it up because sometimes
it's like the playoffs or postseason.
Yeah.
No matter what you do during the regular season, when it gets to the finals, you got to win.
Yeah, and I think it's a great showcase for players that people may have never heard. Like Jose Ramirez is having an MVP season. If you're a casual baseball fan, you may not know that, but you watch him in the Home Run Derby. I know he didn't do as well as he would want it to, but then you start thinking, who's this Jose Ramirez? It was really cool to see Albert Pujols make it a couple, into the later part of it. And I wish that more players would do that as they're retiring. I think it makes it cool. Albert was having a great time. Pardon me, wish that they had like a senior section with Miggy Cabrera doing it as well, because that would have been fun. But he's probably not, I don't know. Everybody's good at batting practice, especially Albert Pujols. But I thought it was great. I think it's great to showcase Juan Soto, who's the next. I mean, he's already a superstar, but he's about to be really known because he's going somewhere else that's not the Nationals.
He turned down $440 million over 15 years.
I mean,
you know why?
Me too, just
because
to be here with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and Rodriguez, Julio Rodriguez, great to watch. People probably haven't seen him a whole lot, and gives him kind of a platform to jump off of. And I love seeing Ken Griffey Jr. there taking pictures like he's a fan. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
23 years, 266 days old, became the second youngest Derby champion behind my favorite Ranger in Juan Gonzalez back in 1993. I didn't know that.
But and plus the format now, it gives those extra rounds. So you can have those things. But what Julio Rodriguez did in the first round last night was absolutely amazing. So
yeah, I've seen some people who like the format, some people who don't, maybe are a bit more old school or whatever. But there were definitely home run derbies in the past where you're just like, okay, come on, dude. It's like kind of, it needed a little tinkering, and I think it's doing fine. But that's full display. Two of the best young stars in baseball. A big night for the Dominican Republic. To have both of the finalists in there. But I thought that was, fun little summer event that we get once a year. And, of course, it leads into tonight's game, the All-Star game, AL versus NL. And that will start at 7 o'clock. And are you going to be tuning into that, Paul? Are you a big All-Star game watcher?
Yeah, I've got dinner with my family tonight with my mom and uncle, so I'll miss probably a little bit of it. But,
Do they know? Do they know?
Yeah, everybody knows. The world knows.
I mean,
yes.
Yes. The proposal thing.
I was curious.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't tell them about your children back when you were in Florida, so I was just curious if they know about you getting married.
Yeah, they know. They know. People know. It was shocking news to most of the world.
Yeah. Well, you said it would never happen, and here we are.
I know.
We said everything's off the table, right? And nothing will surprise us anymore.
Yeah, that's it. You gotta.
The ultimate free agent is no longer.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you are the biggest troll, man. You really are. You really are just the biggest troll. Elsewhere, Live Golf could be getting a big-time addition. So far up until this point, it's been guys who have seen their better years come and go, but still have enough gas in the tank to entertain and be competitive, but just not quite at the level of being in their prime, so to speak. That was kind of the gist of Live there for the beginning. And then we started to see a few bigger names start to join. Well, now the world's number 2 golfer currently, Cam Smith, is apparently closing in on a deal with Live Golf. He just took home the Open title, and this was reported by TMZ Sports initially. He is, potentially going to be joining up with Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau and Dustin Johnson and Mickelson, and there's been several others you can throw into that mix as well. But here's a guy who's not on the other side of his career per se, just kind of. I think this one rattled people a little bit more because of the fact he's number 2 golfer.
Not even
younger, and most of all,
not even a week after he wins the major. And was fantastic in doing so. The only place, and I texted this to Smokey earlier about another golf thing about David Faraday, but the only thing that can really stop the Live Tour is that if Augusta National said you can't play here if you're on the Live Tour, which I don't really think they're going to do because I think they might have already done it.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen here. And this is not official yet, but he was asked in the post-tournament after winning the Open Championship, and he goes, I just won the Open Championship. Can I enjoy this for a little bit? And I get that answer, but he could have put like a nuke that pretty quickly. I don't know what's going to happen. There was a story that were 5 or 6 other players kind of joined him as well. This one would be interesting. No question, because he won the Players' Championship, won the Open Championship, and becomes their highest-rated player immediately because he's number 2 in the world, as we mentioned. I don't know what's going to – that was a great win on Sunday. Good for him. That was fun to watch.
Yep, but that's the latest big rumor as far as Live Golf goes. And you kind of wonder with the way the PGA has played this, they bit off a bit more than they can chew. Because I feel like they kind of had people in their corner, so to speak, at least a portion. And I don't know, it just feels like over the last couple of weeks that's even shifted somewhat. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I have.
Where it was kind of like anti-Live world there for a moment for a lot of people. And then the PGA's kind of kept up with their normal practices. And I don't know, it just seems like they're on a bit shakier ground over the last month for sure. Because
some players got a reprieve and got to play in the Scottish Open, including Ian Poulter. Yep. They've added more players. It's not just there's so much.
And legally, there's not a great argument for the PGA. That's, I think, the biggest thing.
Yeah, and there's things the PGA has responded. You cannot outbid them. You cannot outmoney them. You cannot try to, do it. But it's starting. There is a little bit. I had somebody it was the 2-1-3. How can we lose our mind? And again, this is just me telling you. How can we lose our mind about players who are going to play for a Saudi Arabian-based tour, and yet the president is over in Saudi Arabia dealing with them?
I mean, I don't think that part of that is not. It's not like he's talking about it, but addressing Saudi Arabia was something we were going to have to do.
No.
Eventually. So, yeah, I mean, we can't, like, the president's over there negotiating with them, which is what you're supposed to do with countries, whether that, I don't know. I just hope it works out for the better for the world.
Just
golf,
a thought that somebody, you hope, but then again, is it not? But Cam Smith, if he leaves for the Live Tour, you wonder about his legacy. If in fact he's never allowed to play at Augusta National, if he's fine with that, that's fine. Did you see what Sergio Garcia said after the Open? He's basically going off the DP Tour, which is the European Tour, which is attached now. He said he doesn't feel loved, and okay. Sergio has been an incredibly popular player, won the Masters, a hell of a player, Ryder Cup greatness. Like Ian Poulter in some ways. Poulter did not win the Masters, but it's a little bit more annoying, I think, right now than the PGA Tour ever thought it would get.
So anyways, moving on, but sticking with Live Golf, David Faraday leaving NBC, expected to join Live Golf Tour as an analyst for 8 to 10 tournaments. That according to the New York Post on Monday. World-renowned as a golf commentator.
Funny as hell.
Yeah, really funny guy as well. But looks like now the commentary side is also getting, and it has before. I mean, this is not the first commentator that the Live Tour has hired, but it does look like this is their latest move. David Faraday leaving NBC and joining the Live Golf broadcast in an undetermined role. And Charles Barkley, it's mentioned in the ESPN article, it said that he agreed to meet with Live about an unspecified media role, and he got a lot of backlash for that because, of course, all of this is being funded by Saudi Arabia, and that's why a lot of people are up in arms about doing business with the folks over there, and basically sports washing, the term that's been used to improve their image. But David Faraday is now headed to Live, and who knows, maybe Charles Barkley will be, providing some comedic relief as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, if Faraday and Barkley on a broadcast, it's going to be funny, so it's going to be good. This is all so hard for me to wrap my head around about how I should feel about it. I know how like the moral high horse of me feels about it, and I don't like the Saudi blood money, but I don't.
Faraday has a very popular show on the Golf Channel, and I wonder if that continues.
I mean, it's
a great show.
Yeah,
I watch it all the time. It's one of the few things outside of the golf analyst that I watch.
Yeah, I don't know. Those things depends on how much. I guess NBC owns the Golf Channel. NBC Universal, they own it. Comcast, I guess that's who really owns it. It depends on how much backlash that they're willing to take about it.
Yeah, you're right. They declined comment, by the way, on the at least report that he's leaving for the Live Tour. The network did.
David Faraday?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Golf Channel, since signing the network in 2015, NBC and Faraday declined comment to the Post on the fact that he's expected to leave. Not a comment about whether or not he'll continue to work for the Golf Channel.
All right, elsewhere, SEC Media Days, Nick Saban's latest comments on name, image, likeness said, I don't dislike name, image, and likeness. I'm all for the players. I want our players to do well, but there's got to be some uniformity and protocol of how name, image, and likeness is implemented. That kind of backs up what he has said previously. There's the Texas Tech story that it was out there, the $25,000 for every player, and then a bunch of the walk-ons, which was originally 15, but now it's 20 apparently. And obviously NIL is a big topic, but there was just, Saban talking about the NIL aspect of things, and Lane Kiffin was talking about it just yesterday. And it's weird though when I hear them talk about it, because I'm going, but y'all are the ones that, maybe not Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, but anytime I hear Saban talking about it, it's hard. I think he's got what's best in mind for college football, but I also know he's operating with more than anyone. So it's hard for me to kind of figure out where to land with him exactly, because on the one hand, Nick, I think you do want things a little bit more of the way that they were, not necessarily not paying players, but not full blown what it is right now. But yet I know you're right in the thick of things, most likely. Your program is, at least, and those who handle it. So I don't know. It's just weird hearing guys like that talk about NIL, knowing that they're the types that can actually benefit from it. It's one thing to hear somebody like Lance Leipold talking about NIL, because they have no shot in hell unless they just have big bankrolls.
You have to include Ole Miss. You have to include Alabama. You have to include pretty much anybody. But if you are the emperor, which Saban is, and of course Georgia did beat the Emperor. But if you are the Emperor and everything's going really, really well for you, why would you want it to change where possibly others can start to eat into what you do? Well, even if you can then go do what they're going to try to do to catch up with you.
Again, just like his whole speech against Jimbo and Dion and all that other stuff, that wasn't necessarily darts at Jimbo or Dion. It was propaganda. That's what it is. I mean, it's propaganda. Like, you got to do this because and he's got to keep saying those things. But you also don't want to look.
What we've learned about Paul and Craig about him is if you want to change the rules, he may fight that, but then he will then start to go by those rules.
Yeah, I mean,
he's beat you with those new rules.
He's going to do that. So, I mean, look, he can have a moral stance here or there or think it should be this way. But, again, he's taking a step out and going, no, Alabama will not participate in this because it's wrong. No. So, again, like I just said about my Live Tour moral high ground, I can say it's bad all I want, but I'm sure there's something I do that is backed by Saudi cash, and I don't know it. I don't know. But
every product we buy is from China.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I mean,
So, yeah, look, I bought my share of Sony televisions. I don't know.
That's Japan, I think,
That's
actually.
Japan, but like, or whatever, just, all those things. So,
something all of us are, and I don't know this for a fact, but probably something we're all wearing, whether it's a hat or clothing or whatever, or shoes, probably has come from places that have had human rights issues.
How much Nike stuff you bought over the years? All right,
yeah.
Everybody. Nike makes their stuff in Malaysia, paying people barely anything. So we've all done that, and it's the same with college football. Nick Saban, like he can say all he wants, like this is bad, and okay, maybe it is, but you're doing it.
You want to do this? I don't want to. I don't think it's good. Okay, we can do this. I'm going to beat you doing it. That's what he's going to do. I'm sorry, Craig. Go ahead.
Yeah. You bring up Deion Sanders, and Deion announced just yesterday that he will donate half his salary to help Jackson State complete their football facility renovations. He made this announcement on Instagram. He said he wants to up his donation to half his salary and make sure the facility is ready a month before the season starts. The target date is August the 4th, according to the Jackson Clarion Ledger. And so he said, if you don't believe me, check me. I'll send you the receipts. And they're going to, hopefully have that thing getting underway. But definitely a tale of different circumstances when you're talking about Texas Tech's ponying up $25,000 for 85 scholarship players and up to 20 walk-ons, and that's definitely trying to massage the roster. Don't let the kindness fool you there. That's looking for an advantage, but there is kindness involved, I'm sure, not to totally dismiss that. But that's a far cry from being able to do that just with the call to a booster. And then Deion, the head coach, ponying up half the money for a facility project. That's just – it's two different worlds right there.
I love, and I know there's things about Deion that people may not like. I love he gets on his phone and he does these little videos that are maybe 45 seconds to a couple of minutes, and I listen to every one of them whenever they pop up. And he makes a hell of a lot of sense. A lot of sense. Good for him.
Yep. So cool for him. Cool for Jackson State. Be a lot cooler if he didn't have to do that necessarily. But I think his big paydays are not only behind him, thanks to the NFL and Nike and everything else he's dealt with, commercially. But he's going to get a big coaching job here pretty soon. I feel very confident in that, and will be amongst the highest paid when that time comes.
Oh, I think he's got one in mind that is tenuous right now for the current guy.
Yep. Paul, by any chance, I know you just got in, but are you going to check out The Captain on ESPN, the latest Derek Jeter documentary that aired last night?
I would have watched it last night if I could have kept my eyes open any longer. It was all I could do to make it, and I dozed off during parts of the home run derby because I was
There's no
tired.
jet lag coming back from 5 to 10 hours away.
Oh, yeah, there is. Oh, yeah, there is.
All right, you going to watch it?
Yeah, I will, absolutely. Right. I'm excited about it. And I don't like the Yankees, but I respect the hell out of Derek Jeter.
Yeah, I mean, how could you not? I mean, he had a great career. I mean, I'm sure I say that and somebody's railing right now off how they, how they don't respect him for whatever reason or another. But certainly interesting that they say it's the biggest project by ESPN since The Last Dance. So that has now started airing, and you can check that out. I saw a bunch of people who did, I guess, watch it on Twitter, commenting on its greatness or lack thereof or whatever, and it seemed to get a few people watching, but I haven't checked it out myself either just yet. And you know what? I got a little ratings thing, but I'm going to save that for Thursdays, actually, because I'm going to dive into it a little bit more. But an interesting look at where we are per sports media halfway through the year on the most watched broadcast. As you can imagine, NFL doing very well, but the breakdown of where we are, and obviously no college football really except for the very beginning of the year, like the first week of the year. So it's going to be a little iffy on painting the full picture because we got a whole half of the picture that hasn't been painted just yet, and a lot of that is college football, but I'll save that just in case there's not a lot of going on over the next couple of days for Thursday, but those are a few things off the radar.
Some really juicy stuff. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate that every Tuesday, Thursday around 4:45. Marty Coleman, he runs rubbingtherock.com, and somebody on the Sikkim 365, when I put up the guest list, he goes, I would never have known what he does. He covers Clemson, and they have an NIL program that really doesn't get a lot of attention, but don't act like they don't. And then a little bit later, Chris Level on Texas Tech's announcement about their NIL supportive and collective a little later in the hour. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy old world pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. This is a great time for your business.
Exactly. And one other thing we do that a lot of people don't know is we buy jewelry, heirloom pieces, gold, silver bars, gold bullion, watches, anything you may have that you want to. If you don't want to use it and remake something like I did in a state yesterday and I looked at 35 pieces, well, they're probably going to sell me back 30 because it's something they're not going to wear, nothing to use. So if you're looking to get a few bucks or to sell something or something you just don't wear anymore, I make my wife go through her jewelry box about every 6 to 8 months, and the things that she doesn't wear on a daily basis, this sounds horrible, but I take away from her and then I'll put in my estate counter, but then that gives me the chance to rebuy her something new moving forward. Instead of looking down 20 years down the road and you have 300 pieces of jewelry, it's something to refresh and make her buy something new along the way.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? by not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference, and that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And off with a big hole for Shipley. Shipley's loose. Touchdown, Tigers.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Couple of different segments in this hour about NIL and a little bit about how schools handle it. We had the news yesterday about Texas Tech alumni group and donors and what they're doing. And Chris Level will join us, who's a part of their broadcast at 5:30 or so. But right now, Marty Coleman, Rubbing the Rock is the name of the website, covers Clemson. Of course, that then makes a lot of sense. He joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports and discuss kind of the purpose-driven NIL. Marty, thanks for your time. First of all, let me get your initial reaction about all the discussion about what's happening with conferences, and there's the ACC and what Clemson and Florida State and some of the Blue Bloods. Anything you think that's imminent because the grant of rights we know extends until 2037? Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I actually wish something was imminent, and I think most Clemson fans do, but everything we hear and read they're being very patient with their deliberations on what to do at Clemson. Fans are kind of, up in the air. They want something to happen, right? You see Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC, UCLA and Southern Cal going to the Big Ten, and you kind of feel left out. And while nothing appears to be imminent, who knows? 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we weren't sure that, or we had no idea actually that UCLA and USC were looking at the Big Ten. So keep refreshing your phone.
Marty, the ACC has big brands that can obviously move outside of Clemson. Miami, Florida State. Everybody's kind of attractive, but that grant of rights going. I mean, that's the thing they have to move slowly on and figure out, right? Because you can't just tell somebody that 13 years of money is just gone because you want it to be.
2036 sounds like a long way away, doesn't it, fellas? Yeah, and everything I've read is that's pretty ironclad, right? There's no easy way out that anybody has shown me or that I've seen or read about. So I think they're kind of stuck, right? And Dabo said today, there's a media day today at Clemson. He said they're just, it is what it is. And that statement means I can't do a lot about it right now. So he also said, of course, that's not his job. That's the president and athletic director's job to look into that. But when somebody tells me it is what it is, it means your options are limited.
Marty, there's no question last year Clemson, you almost as if the program should fold because of the year they had. They didn't play for the national championship or in the college, but they were still really, really good. What are your thoughts about who they have back and what will make them better and elite this year?
Well, first of all, I think the front seven, I don't think many people realize how many injuries Clemson had last year. The bowl game with Iowa State, they had 27 scholarship players, and Dabo Swinney's son was the starting wide receiver, if that gives you any kind of idea how the season went. But there was a ton of injuries on both sides of the ball. Will Shipley missed a good part of the season. And by the way, thank you for the intro with Shipley scoring a touchdown. I threw my hands up in the air. But Will Shipley missed a good part of the season. Brian Brzee missed most of the season. The front seven for Clemson this year is going to probably be the best in the nation. I don't say that lightly. It'll be one of the best in the nation, I think. That is going to be the key. But the other key for me is DJ Uiagalelei not throwing pick sixes. There's one team that held the Georgia offense without a touchdown last year, and that was the Clemson Tigers. So they're going to rely on the defense, and hopefully DJ improves and doesn't throw pick sixes.
Do you feel like any of the teams in the ACC caught up to them a little bit last year, or You mentioned the injuries and DJ not throwing picks and all of that. If that gets kind of resolved, will they continue their? I mean, they're a full step, if not two, ahead of most of the rest of the league.
Yeah, I think if they play up to their potential and they stay relatively injury-free, they're heavy favorites in the ACC. If you look up and down the roster, they recruit in the top 10 every season, right? They're number 4 right now in the 247 rankings. No one in the ACC is really close, and that's excluding Notre Dame. Obviously, he's not in the ACC, but they have the best roster, top to bottom, undoubtedly in the ACC. They've got to answer that quarterback question. They've got to answer some questions on the offensive line, but they're going to rely on defense. I think if they can answer the quarterback question, they're going to win the ACC and be a playoff team potentially.
Marty, as part of that quarterback question, I mean, here we are in the state of Texas. I have to ask you, Kay Klubnik, what's kind of the early review on him? Obviously, he's in the mix, so to speak, but how much is he, and what have been the early returns?
Well, Dabo said after the spring that DJ is the starting quarterback and has done nothing to lose that job. And about, I'd say 50% of the fan base went crazy about that statement. But if you know Dabo, he's going to say that after the spring game, right? He's not going to throw his quarterback under the bus. And I really honestly think that DJ is going to go out there September 5 against Georgia Tech on Labor Day night. Now, if you remember a few years ago, Kelly Bryant started the first game in 2018. After 4 games, it was Trevor Lawrence's show. Not saying that's what's going to happen here. I really don't know. I live in the Austin area. I don't know if you guys know that.
Okay.
But I've watched Cade Klubnik for 2 years on TV every Friday night, carve up teams, big and small, by 70 or 80 points. I think my son goes to Hayes, and I think they beat Hayes, who, by the way, was state runner-up in their division. I think they beat them by 65 points. Whether that translates to Clemson as a true freshman, I don't know. I don't think he's Trevor Lawrence, but I think he's really good, and we'll see what happens. We hear that DJ's lost. This is an interesting thing we heard today. DJ's lost 30 pounds. Cade has gained 16 since he showed up on campus. He was a skinny stick last year, even in Texas high school football, but he's up to 195 now. So we'll see what happens in the fall, but my belief is that DJ starts on September 5.
Marty, one of the reasons I did reach out to you as well was because of the NIL and the story you wrote, Clemson football, NIL, the Clemson way, the path less traveled. You don't hear much about it compared to perhaps some others, and I don't know if that's just because it's somewhat just they go about their business, or there's not a lot of social media like look at me. I don't know what it is, and we're all pro NIL. How come that has seemed so quiet, not for the Clemson fan base or others around Clemson, but it seems like that thing is kind of motoring along, but it's not getting a lot of attention?
Well, the first thing I want to say is that the players do have typical NIL deals, right? DJ Uyunglele has deals, I believe, with Taco Bell, and there's guys with jewelry shops and car dealerships and whatever. But the one in specific that I wrote about, it's called Tiger Impact, and it is a purpose-driven, charity-driven NIL program for Clemson players. And I want to also say this: it's not just football players. All sports are represented, from softball to golf to tennis. Every sport on campus, I think, is on there, or if not everyone, a lot of them are. But what this charity was born out of a chance meeting, or this NIL program, out of a chance meeting last fall at the Clemson-Louisville game, where someone was told about a charity for cancer that he had never heard of and realized it needed support. Well, as they started talking more and more, the idea was born: how can we support all the charities that need support? And the idea came up to have Clemson athletes use their marketability to support charities. So the way this works is you donate to Tiger Impact, and I should say that tigerimpact.org. You donate to Tiger Impact. They and the actual athletes have to apply online to represent Tiger Impact. And then Tiger Impact matches the charities with the athlete. Max Wagner, for example, is a baseball player who was chosen 42nd overall yesterday in the draft. He's part of this. And I don't know, he's from Green Bay, Wisconsin. And he has a charity in Green Bay that he's affiliated with. So, and the players have to do marketing for the charity, right? They just don't get the money for sending out a tweet. Now, maybe that is marketing these days. I don't know. But the players have to actually do marketing for the charities that they're supporting before they get any of the money. This charity's raised $5 million so far.
$5 million. And again, it's a charitable thing as well. Your thoughts, and we appreciate your time. Do you feel like then Clemson, if they need, I don't know, this is probably not the way Dabo wants to look at it, but if they have to get involved in something and a player wants whatever it is to come to Clemson, will Dabo turn his head, walk away? How will they handle that?
Well, Clemson recruits differently in the first place, right? They don't offer 9 running backs, 4 quarterbacks. If you remember in the Arch Manning sweepstakes, he went out early at Clemson, and Clemson moved on and offered 1 more quarterback, Chris Fazzino, and eventually got his commitment. Clemson does not offer a lot of guys, and I can tell you right now, they're not going to offer a high school junior $8 million in an NIL deal. That's just not the way they operate. Now, football fans will look at that and think that's to their detriment, and sometimes I would agree, but I'm also very proud of Clemson for the way they're handling this. You're not going to see Lamborghinis and Learjets, as we saw from Louisville a few weeks ago. What you're going to see is smaller deals around the community, such as this Tiger Impact. But there is NIL at Clemson. Don't be fooled by the media. Dabo's not against NIL. He's against giving a high school junior $8 million before he ever made a play in college.
Thank you, Marty. Appreciate your time, Marty Coleman. Your voice was fine, by the way. You said it was a little bit scratchy. You did well. Thank you for your time. Marty Coleman, again, rubbing the rock, covers Clemson football, and what a run they have been on under Dabo Swinney.
Yeah, I got to take offense to y'all talking about down year. You realize they won 10-plus games, 10-plus years in a row?
Who said they had a down year?
You kind of referred to that.
No, I said I think people look at that. There's a lot of people that looked as if they had a down year when I said actually they've been right in the mix of all this. Their standard was so high that last year when they weren't running college football, it was like, oh my God, what's wrong with Clemson? They just couldn't score.
Dabo's first year, 9 wins. Dabo's second year, 6 wins. Since then, 10, 11, 11, 10, 14, 14, 12, 15, 14, 10, and 10. So I guess 10 is downgrade. That's his same record 2 years in a row, and it's not 14 or 12. So
it's almost like if the Patriots don't win a Super Bowl, what's wrong with the Patriots? Or if Alabama doesn't win a national championship, what's wrong with Alabama? And with Clemson, their standard got to be so high that last year, early on, when they struggled, they couldn't score. It was like they almost disappeared from college football when they didn't.
There was a time in the middle of the year where I think the rest of the ACC was thinking oh, okay, this is finally when the bubble pops. And Dabo, publicly, because he has no filter. People think, oh, well, he's losing his grip. Well, he lost his grip because, the quarterback wasn't as good. The defense was still fantastic.
Yeah.
That's what people forget. The defense was still absolutely fantastic. And, they lost 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen. They had a new quarterback who wasn't that great. So, we'll see on Clemson. As an ACC fan who would love to see them come back to the pack.
How many teams are there in FCS? 131? There's 126 that wish they were Clemson, right? Probably, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, a down year is 10-3, great.
That's insane, man.
I'll take it.
That's insane. That's some programs act like that's their down year. They would crave to sniff 10 wins again. But Clemson, that's their down year now. It's 10 wins back-to-back years. I mean, that's just how insanely built up Dabo has them at this point. And, yeah, I mean, I think everybody expects them to have a bounce-back year and to be more in the mix or more in control of that ACC. I mean, for them to not be a part of that, I mean, that was surprising, ultimately. But, yeah, I mean, their down year was 10-3. I'd trade that for –
oh, my God.
I mean, as a Nebraska fan, I would
trade 7-5.
Kill for 10-3. So, yeah, that's game. Pretty amazing they've had that kind of longevity. And, yeah, probably only Alabama, maybe Ohio State could really – compete with that, but outside of that, you're not dealing with too many teams.
I've gotten to know someone that kind of is involved in a lot ACC, and he's loves what Dabo and Clemson and all that. By the way, if you're an Alabama fan, I'm giving you 2 seconds to turn your head.
But did you have a follow up to that? Are you saying you know a guy?
No, he just knows a guy that is very, very close with the Clemson program and loves the way it is run and what Dabo means to that program, and many things you almost wish like he had more voice in college football. At the same time, there are certain things that I
think sometimes his voice is not wanted in certain
it's
topics.
A different voice. He has his opinion. It seems to be in the minority at times. If you're an Alabama fan, 23154, turn your head. The latest helmet that came in. We just lost every Alabama fan that doesn't watch the show.
Well, thank you, War Damn Eagle.
Yes, War Damn Eagle. That's Eric Horton did not send us this, but he would be proud of the Auburn mini helmet.
Do you feel like he's maybe been a little bit icy to you since lately?
Yeah. I mean,
not completely.
I haven't seen him in a year. I mean, my buddy. All right, when we come back, Chris Level on what's been the reaction in Lubbock to the NIL about the $25,000 for players on scholarship and also walk-ons, and the little story behind it. That's next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, talk about building, talk about a brand, talk about what they've done since 1943, and that is amazing. Staying in business, getting bigger, better, faster, stronger, brand new facility being built in Waco, and it only makes them better. And they've been really good since 1943. Locations in Waco and Bryan, they specialize in helping you build a metal building. They can help you with the contractor information, but also the product. Heavy metal, steel, pipe, heavy-duty equipment. They'll deliver it, they'll unload it, whatever you need, and they have stayed in business since 1943. And sometimes, whether it's a large city or even a city the size of maybe 50,000 or Waco over, near 300,000 proper, sometimes when the big stores come in, well, guess what? They eat the local stores. Pioneer Steel and Pipe has completely beaten that down, and they thrive to this day. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, the Pioneer Boys, pioneerboys.com.
Make this a summer sales event is happening now at Allen Samuels on the new 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab Lone Star. With special values up to $7,000 or get $1,500 bonus cash and 2.9% for 72 months. Ram trucks are designed to be durable, functional, and stylish. This legendary award-winning truck gives you that first-class feel. Allen Samuels in Waco, the place to shop for Ram trucks. First responders get $500 extra cash.
Come by. Let's be friends.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online, pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm, welcome home.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Dave Archer, Matt Tate, Kevin Jackson, Marty Coleman, who covers Clemson, and Chris Level now, who covers Texas Tech sideline reporter, basketball broadcast as well. And Chris joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports with Paul Craig, and I'm David Smoak. Chris, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. So we knew that Campbell was a big deal and is a huge part of Texas Tech. When that story came down yesterday, I'm sure you knew it was coming. What was your reaction?
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me on. But yeah, I've known Cody for a long time since he was a player here back in the mid-2000s, you know, when Mike was the head coach. And, you know, and he's been obviously very involved. And he's, you know, I mean, and what's interesting is they had this announcement yesterday, which they've been working on for about 6 to 8 months. And I knew that, you know, this is what they were doing. I knew what the plan was. And, you know, I think there's a lot of collectives in college athletics now, and what I think they tried to do differently was they tried to. Cody's kind of the face of it, but they try to get really high level donors in. There's some in Dallas Fort Worth, there's some in Lubbock, there's some in Midland Odessa, and they all kind of got guys that were interested maybe in the various sports. In other words, some of these folks are really heavy into football. Some are like maybe more of a basketball fan. Some are very much tied to Tim Tadlock's baseball program. So I thought that was very smart. But they from the get-go, they talked about aiming high, but they also talked about being equal across the board and wanting to eventually try to take care of every athlete. But I wasn't certain what figure they were going to roll out with, and I didn't know how many sports they would do. It sounds like they're just going to do football. But, yeah, I guess initially $2.5 million committed, and the kid's got to do community service and sign a contract to be able to get the money. So it's kind of a fascinating story for sure.
How much do you think that will help recruiting, knowing that there's at least a baseline?
Yeah, you know, and I think they're sensitive to that. They understand that the rules are not supposed to be where it's an enticement. But they also know that once this came out, that kids are going to know. I don't know if $25,000 is gonna, you know, enough to move the needle to where a kid's gonna pick this school over that one. However, I think that if you look at it in terms of this way, one, Joey McGuire wanted to make it equal across the board. You're not going to pay a quarterback more than you're the second string, you know, safety or whatever you want to do. But they're also paying 15 walk-ons, and I think that's where it gets interesting, because basically, you know, in so many ways, you're adding extra scholarships if you want to look at it that way. You're able to maybe have a better leg on getting players that you would normally say, man, we don't have room for you. Now they're going to go, okay, yeah, let's do it. Because there's 15 of these kids that are going to get, this money that are not technically on scholarship. I think that's kind of a fascinating way to kind of create some depth on your roster.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the first ways I looked at it, Chris, is, hey, get creative and where can we find some advantages? And certainly that walk-on portion is definitely an advantage that could be had there, increasing the roster size as best as you can. What has been the reaction that you've seen? I mean, we've seen the fans out there who have celebrated this move, seem excited about it, seen a little bit of the players' reaction as well, but what have you kind of taken in since that announcement was made?
Yeah, I think it's all been positive. I think obviously if you're these players, I mean, I'm as interested as anybody to kind of see. I'd like to know how much community service they have to do. They're talking about maybe doing some things for communities not necessarily in Lubbock and maybe the middle of Odessa or Metroplex or where there's other Tech alumni bases. And I'd love to know how much they're going to have to do and what that's going to entail. But they picked 5 or so charities like the United Way and I'm trying to think of some of the South Plains Food Bank and so I'm just, because I think that ideally, look, we know college sports it's skewed right now. It's not real innocent and wholesome. It doesn't feel like right now. Again, this maybe isn't either. I don't know, but I think they were trying at its core to have a win-win for everybody. Help the community, make these kids have to do something for this money instead of just outright paying them, and the like. And so we'll see kind of what it looks like in the end. But yeah, it's all been positive out here. I can see other. There's been some shots taken at Tech from some of the TCU folks that's kind of been stirred up on social media. I think one of the, Sonny Dykes' staff members, he made reference to, if that's what you have to pay to have kids go out in the desert and all that. And so all the fan bases are having field day with that. So that's been a wild deal. And I think Tech football has actually kind of played up on it. If you go check some of the social media accounts, you'll see a cactus emoji going on all over the place. But yeah, that's what makes sports fun, though, right? It's everybody's trying to figure out how to get a leg up on the next guy.
Well, you wonder, if you're a fan base that initially saw other programs appear to take advantage of NIL quicker and sooner than you did, and then all of a sudden the program you like or cover or whoever maybe join the fray, you might change your mind about NIL.
Yeah, and I will tell you, Texas Tech is they jumped in this thing knee deep quickly, especially men's basketball. I mean they'll make no secret about. I mean how they're throwing and again it's donors or companies, they're wanting to be heavily involved there, and I think football that they're trying to do this kind of idea that eventually spills over to baseball. But here's what's fascinating to me, David, is that there's people sitting there that want to be a part of college athletics, whether they're season ticket holders or huge donors and everything in between. And there's only so many dollars to go around. So if I'm a school like Texas Tech, do I want to donate to the Matador Club? Do I want to buy my suite? Do I want to donate to the Red Raider Club, which is the technically the scholarship fund? What exactly do I want to donate to if I can only afford to donate to one? And so now you've got these entities that are closely aligned, yet they're competing for the same dollars when there's only so much money. Mm-hmm. So that part is kind of fascinating to see kind of what's going on these college campuses, because coaches, they need all of it. I need the NIL money. We also need our scholarships funded. We also need season tickets and suites sold out. I mean, so that part has kind of been interesting to see how that is going to go, especially long term, because again, some of these folks only have so much money and discretionary income to try to give to one of these things.
I think that's where some of that TCU frustration comes from as well, is the fact that, that's not the case at every single school, Chris. Not everybody's opening up their purses like Texas Tech fans are right now. And you're right. I brought that up the other day. It's like, at what point do you have to turn off the faucets because you've been giving and giving and giving? Where does that end? But, some places I wonder just how much care there is to give in the first place. And I think that's maybe where some of that Twitter frustration comes from, if you will.
Yeah, and I think we see like maybe smaller crowds at TCU stuff, and the TCU has plenty of money. It just depends on how they want to spend it, where they, the certain people that are donating it. I mean, their endowment is enormous. They don't want or need for anything. I mean, go look at their facilities. I mean, they're. But you're right. Maybe it's the everyday common guy that's not donating it. They're not enough people given to that kind of thing. I don't know, but it's just it's fascinating to see kind of everybody's dealing with this. And but this was the latest story that came out on NIL. It just happened to come out of Lubbock yesterday, and it's kind of fascinating to see kind of even across the board. And I wasn't certain like I told you guys earlier, I wasn't certain what the figure was. I think they were trying to see how much money, because what they ultimately want here is they want this to be sustainable. They don't want a one-off and they're like, let's go get $1 million and let's go buy a quarterback. They want a fund that is going to be here every single year and it sustains itself. And so 15 years from now, these kids are getting something and maybe even more, but and so they went and hired an NCAA, somebody that used to be in the compliance office, NCAA, that was an attorney to try to make sure they were following the rules. And they tried to do it the right way. Is it being done the right way? I can't say for certain. I'm not in those meetings, but they had the right idea in mind to a certain extent.
Chris, one note, we were at Big 12 Media Days. Obviously, Joey sat down with us and the connection there. And one of the things that we see, and Craig's brought this up, Paul, I believe you believe the same thing, is that Texas Tech was a bowl team last year. They got a lot back this year, and it seems like there are a few people sleeping on them. Now, whether they should be higher or whatever,
I think they're enjoying that. I think he's enjoying the sleeping part.
And I think Joey's using that kind of a little chip on their shoulder, and we know how he's a motivator. Do you get that same impression?
Yeah, he loves it. He does. And you make a great point, because I think that it's an indictment on the fact that you're not real sure what you've got at quarterback. I think you've got bodies there, Tyler Shuck and Donovan Smith and Baron Morton. They're three really good players. None of them have really done it, though, for a full season and things like that. But, as Joey will tell you, we're not going to worry about like running our quarterbacks this year because we've got depth there. Like, so one of them gets dinged up or something, we're going to be fine. We're going to be good. We're probably going to play more than one guy. But I think it's what's fascinating to me is Texas Tech has questions. Make no mistake, and that's why they're picked, the back end of the standings. But there's a lot of these teams that have a lot of questions. I mean, there's a lot of assumptions being made on this transfer quarterback coming here, and so okay, they're going to be just fine. Or this coordinator left that unbelievable Oklahoma State defense, and so but they're still going to be fine. They've got a few. I mean, there's just a lot of us. I think we're open for a wild league race. I think Texas Tech feels like they maybe not real sure how many true strengths they have on their roster. However, I would argue there's not really any weaknesses there either. They're just solid. And he's really gone to work in the portal like everybody has. They have plenty of depth. They're recruiting well. And there's a lot back. And it's a team that went to a bowl game and won a fun game over Mike Leach and Mississippi State last year in Memphis.
Chris, obviously got to check out Media Days last week and hear from Brett Yormark for the first time, and that leads me into realignment and all of this talk that's going on. Obviously, you've seen that. Everybody involved with college football seen that or been a part of that talk. What are your thoughts from the Texas Tech perspective on just continued rumors, the state of the Big 12, Yormark coming in, and what maybe is around the corner?
I'm tired of merger talks. It doesn't make it. It's silliness to me. It sounds great. It makes for great stories. Everybody's kind of playing fantasy football with the realignment stuff. To me, it boils down to this. I'm fascinated to see what three schools do, because that's going to decide, at least impact the Big 12. Okay, maybe I should reference that. What does Notre Dame do? And it sounds like they want to kind of hold off a little bit and wait till they renegotiate with NBC or not renegotiate with NBC. And that kind of ultimately is going to determine what happens with Oregon and Washington, in my opinion, and if they're fit in the Big Ten or whatever. But Notre Dame holds all the cards there. But really, to me, as far as the Big 12 goes, it really is all about what the Arizona schools want to do. That's really the next step. If they want to make a move and they think they're in a better situation where they're at, or if they want to make the leap, we're going to know that, as soon as the Pac-12 really gets knee deep in their negotiations, they're going to have a good idea of what that looks like and if they want to be a part of it or not. Because I don't think you're taking Colorado and Utah. I think it's more about the Arizona schools, and I think Colorado, which I'm not certain is just that great of an addition, but I think Utah would be, and there's the BYU connections on that. But really, it's about the Phoenix market and Arizona schools, because I think I know for a fact there was mutual interest in that last summer, and because Lawrence Skubanek was knee deep in those conversations, and I think Kirby Hocutt was on the subcommittee is relate. So they had indicated to some of us here, yeah, I mean, there was plenty of talks going on, and it was mutual, and so I would be willing to bet that there's still mutual interest. It's just it's up to everybody to figure out where the money is and what's best for them, because I don't believe for one second the Arizona schools in particular feel super tied to the Pac-12 from an academic standpoint and geographic standpoint, all that stuff. I think if it makes sense for them, they will eventually make the move, and that's what is going to determine Big 12 realignment or not, in my opinion.
Yeah, we had Jason Shear, who covers Arizona, on a couple of times in the last week, and he has been all in that and has even said so. Yeah.
And then throw in the fact there, Chris, that a lot of the alumni in the Arizona schools were kind of tied into Los Angeles and wanted Los Angeles to be kind of the focal point of their television efforts and all that. Well, that's gone now anyway, right? So
exactly.
Why not reevaluate where you are?
I think it was one of the best comments that I saw, and it may have been Jason that actually made it, but I think it just tells you how some of this stuff, how the game is played as the realignment news gets leaked out to the media, because we saw all those stories that came out yesterday. The merger talks are dead, and it was everybody's running to tell whether it was the Big 12 that pulled out or the Pac-12 that pulled out, whatever. But a lot of the Pac-12 stuff was, yeah, we're going to stick together. We don't really want to deal with the Big 12, but I think it was maybe Jason that said people need to quit talking to the Oregon State athletic director. I mean, because it depends on what source you're getting that from. But like if you're Washington State or you're Oregon State, you've got to be panicking a little bit. But like I said, Arizona and Arizona State, that's the sweet spot in my opinion. And if they decide to stay put or feel like the Pac-12 is best, I really wonder if the Big 12, will expand or not. That's where I think that's where the rubber meets the road. It's right there in that Phoenix market with those two Arizona schools.
Chris, thanks for your time, buddy. Great to have you on the show. All sorts of stuff today on the NIL that came out yesterday, and also much more on Texas Tech football and athletics, including a great note on the basketball program, too. Chris Level with us, the sideline reporter for Texas Tech football, and also a part of the college basketball broadcast as well. When we come back, we will hear from Paul Catalina and his first top five in forever. Next on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 555.
Top 5 advantages the Big 12 has over the Pac-12. I think it's pretty cut and dry why we're doing this today. But
did you clear this with
Stuart Mandel? No, I
yeah,
did not. Okay. I did not. Or anybody who's there. I'm sure there's some. I could go through and find some advantages the Pac-12 has to the Big 12. Although right now it's hard to see them. So I'm saying here, top 5 advantages the Big 12 has of the Pac-12. Number 5, the Pac was already in a bad TV deal from the start. This was not a great TV deal for them. Larry Scott messed up the networks. It wasn't great. So they were in a negotiating position where they were trying to get out of a bad deal that they put themselves in, and that was one of the reasons George Kliavkoff is even there. So when you're in a bad TV deal to start, now look, the Big 12 is not getting a ton of money compared to the Big 10 or SEC, but their deal is pretty fair.
You got 42.6 by the way.
And it was market value at the time, so better than what the Pac-12 was in because their Tier 2 rights were better off. And, the Longhorn Network was the albatross, but still worked out better than what happened with the Pac-12 and their varying different networks and how that hit the fan.
One of the underlying or underrated parts of the Big 12 revenue stream that a lot of times gets overlooked because of the Longhorn Network is the Tier 3 rights money that people are getting, that teams are getting, that they're also getting distributed to. And it's more than you think. It's not double-digit millions, but it's a nice chunk of money for everybody.
Yeah, I think the school presidents, chancellors, all those involved in the Pac-12 deserve some blame as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they signed off on whatever he was doing. I think his predecessors probably – I think as a culmination, but Larry Scott's the figurehead of the disaster. I mean, there's no doubt about that. He is the face of the disaster that is potentially looming for the Pac-12. And look, you can't read them their last rites. I mean, let's not act like they're dead in the water just yet because they are still alive. They're as alive as any other conference, and they have some options to pivot to. I think the question is just how great are those options really? And are those options, any of them good enough to make this still the Pac-12? Because that's what they're fighting for, right? They're not fighting for every individual institution necessarily, unless you want to look at it in the grand scheme of things. The Pac-12 staying together does save a team like Wazoo, and it does save a team like Oregon State. But mostly they're fighting for the brand that is the Pac-12. Well, let's not also act like the Pac-12 is some 100-year-long dynasty either. It's been a few different things along the way. So this is not, like the Big Ten falling apart. But it's also not necessarily falling apart, although it's kind of hard to see how it stays together. But, yeah, Larry Scott deserves the majority of the blame along with some others.
Yeah, number 4. The Pac-12 had a year to anticipate this and didn't. I mean, look, Texas and OU did them a favor in regards to, hey, this could happen to you at any time. And, I don't know if they even saw it coming, but they should have at least, in every conference, should at least have their dukes up all the time, ready to go, based on what happened to the Big 12 last year where they got caught nearly flat-footed completely because of the secret negotiations that OU and Texas had. So the Pac-12 had over a year to kind of...
They had advance warning.
To brace for themselves this possibility and weren't able to do anything to make their league more attractive to USC and UCLA.
Good point.
I mean, I don't know what they were going to do.
I know, but...
but I know what you're saying is you could at least had the conversations and been aware that, hey, there's a good chance they might be on their way out and at least cut it off. I mean, that's the thing is OU and Texas left after shaking everybody's hands. Oh, it's good to see you. You're right. Never been stronger together. Future's bright. And they turn around just all over, Bowlesby and everybody else. So you didn't have time to see that really coming, but the signs were there. The signs were there, and you didn't have time necessarily to see USC and UCLA. And UCLA is the surprising part. Let's face it, USC lead was not so much of a surprise. I was going to bring that up,
Craig. Who would you have said, USC
Oregon.
And somebody? Okay.
Yeah, if it was USC and Oregon, I don't think anybody would have batted much of an eye. I mean, you would have, but it wouldn't have been as much of a surprise. I think the fact that it was UCLA and it was the entire L.A. market is what really went, whoa, wait a second here. Because if it had just been the two biggest brands, and let's say it was Oregon and USC, there was a lot of people that actually kind of predicted that when the whole OU Texas thing came around. So, they didn't have warning, but then again, they kind of did. And I don't know what they could have done other than just open talks with the LA schools and maybe tried the revenue sharing route, months ago. And even then, I don't know that it builds up enough to match what they're going to be getting here in the future. Yeah. So it might have been all for naught, but at least it would have been something versus the absolute nothing and then looking like complete fools when you were just poking fun at the Big 12 a year ago, and you look even dumber than they did by a long shot.
Yeah. By the way, I'd like to make a special note of a story I sent you guys last week. I don't know if you got into it about Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, saying UCLA didn't tell us anything about this. Yeah. We're going to look into it. Yeah, look,
that was a blip on our radar.
Yeah, but I just thought it was funny because politicians like to say stuff like that, and they have no say. Like they had no say in it. They never will have a say in it.
But he had to say it.
But he had to say it.
Yeah,
they absolutely had to say it. It was so bizarre. Number 3, the Big 12 doesn't have to replace a massive TV market. They don't. Look, they lose Oklahoma and Texas, and yes, that's a lot of TV viewers, but it does not completely gut the number 2 market or 1 market in the country, depending on the census that year, like this does. I mean, they're still spread out enough over the markets that they were already in to withstand at least a little bit of it. It's not a complete bloodletting like Los Angeles is for the Pac-12.
Yeah, this isn't losing the whole state of Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, you're losing a good chunk of it, but you're also still sitting there with Baylor and TCU and Texas Tech and now Houston as well. And no, it's not going to, on average, live up to whatever UT pulls, several million at a time or whatever. But, I mean, by no means have they lost the Texas market, which is their bread and butter and what it's always been kind of centered around. And even with the Oklahoma market, I mean, there's definitely more Sooners fans than there are Pokes fans, but the Pokes are still around, playing for the title last year. They're going to be good again this year. Gundy's a great coach, and I think that they will carry, their fair share of TV sets up there in the Sooner State, that's unfortunate that I have to say that, but it is a Sooner State. It is. So, I mean, they're going to lose some TVs, but I still think there will be Oklahoma fans that watch Oklahoma State on occasion or some of these other games that are just college football fans because that's just a college football loving state.
You hate watch.
Yeah, and there's a lot of hate watching as well. So, I mean, they're going to lose a portion, but not anywhere close, like you said, to losing basically the city of L.A. for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely just life support for the Pac-12 in that market right now. Number two, the Big 12 is already in the process of rebranding. So they're already in it. So that allows them to be a little bit more fleet of foot when it comes to adjusting to new things. So they've already started that process. And being able to flex into new teams. So they were already thinking about who are the next teams that we could add potentially, and probably never even really occurred to them how realistically those Pac-12 teams would have been in there so soon, because these things do come out of the blue. So here a new opportunity has posed itself to them, and to me, they're in a much better place to just bend in and go, okay, well, we'll take these, these teams are welcome to join us at this point.
When did they start rebranding?
I mean, a year ago.
Did they? I guess so. When
you lose Oklahoma and Texas, they're already when you're bringing in Cincinnati and BYU and all that, you're already kind of rebranding who you have to be.
I thought you were talking about maybe their mottos and stuff that have always been
like
terrible.
They're already
Well, now Yormark brings in this different edge of it, and that's rebranding too.
Yeah, I mean, and so they're already in it. The Pac-12 has to figure out what they can be outside of this. The Big 12 figured that out pretty quickly, and now again the legs were going to come out of somebody, and it appears right now it's probably the Pac-12.
Here's one thing with the Big 12 versus Pac-12. I don't question for a second how much the Big 12 schools care about football, for example. Even Kansas, who's having the hardest of times, I do question how much some of those programs in the Pac-12 actually care.
Pac-12 fans will tell you that.
Exactly. And that's when I hear the argument about Pac-12, who's the strongest in the Big 12 and all this, and I'm just like, to me, and I know I'm in Big 12 country and all that, but to me, it's just not even that much of a debate. And I feel like the only reason it even is a debate is simply because of a couple of programs, and one has a swoosh, but quite frankly, their history is on par and not just like resoundingly above anybody in the Big 12 right now.
Right now. Okay, but over the last 20 years, obviously, they've had a great run.
But it fluctuates. But things fluctuate,
No, it's just like
Let's compare the last 20 years. Yeah. Hell, I mean, Big 12's got more, or at least as many Heisman and national championships and things of that nature. I mean, the national championship thing, USC's carried that pretty much for them, or was. Oklahoma was carrying that for the Big 12, and Texas was.
Was their last the USC back-to-back with Pete Carroll?
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah.
I mean,
and the Big 12,
Oregon made it to the playoff, and
Oregon got Mariota as a Heisman. You had Palmer, you had Liner, you had Bush, but I mean, Oklahoma's had like 4 by themselves in that.
Yeah, and a lot of times when you say things about another conference, people go, "Why are you?" We're not. We're just being honest about how we feel.
I'm responding to Stuart Mandel and anybody who acts like it's like this and this when you're talking about these two conferences, and I think that's just he lives in the Bay Area probably or something along those lines.
We don't know that.
No, I don't know. I'm just saying though, there's got to be something more to it than just on the surface, because I'm looking at the same surface and I don't see as much of a
and again, this could flip. Look, if the Pac-12, you brought it up earlier, the Pac-12 somehow managed to make a partnership with the ACC, which I can't wrap my head around, then it flips and the Big 12 is
or if they would have stayed together and Lincoln Riley wins at USC, then maybe that brings a power.
But that's all right. Number one, they have. The Big 12 has a longer time to negotiate the TV deal. Now, this was thrown to the pin like the TV deal's coming up sooner. Well, the Big 12 could decide tomorrow that they want to open up the negotiation earlier. It's both parties that can do it. Plus, they have longer until the deal is up to renegotiate things. So to me, that's more of an advantage in that you've got teams on June 30th as they're starting to talk about the 2024 TV deal or 2023 for the Pac-12 that say they're leaving. Well, that really accelerates your clock. And then you have to enter it early, not because you wanted to, because you're excited about it, because you're terrified.
You're entering this with not knowing who's going to be a part of it.
Yeah.
You do know that 2 of them are gone, and you don't know about the others as well.
Yeah. So I think having 2 or 3 years to negotiate the deal is a lot better than having 1.
I don't know if this is enough confidence I have, but the only 2 conferences that would feel good about renegotiating their deal right now, if they could, would be the Big Ten and the SEC, and they are, right? They are.
Well, the Big Ten is.
Yeah.
The SEC's got their deal.
From Tim, an SC logo on his name, everyone on this stream and the host of this channel would have jumped for a chance for their school to join the Big Ten and the SEC, and Tim, we have never said otherwise.
Tim, if you just want to brag about your school, just say it. Yeah, if you want to make yourself feel taller than everybody else, of course, nobody's saying otherwise. I mean, maybe there's somebody on the chat. Maybe that's what it is, and he's responding to that, because otherwise I have no idea why he's even saying that.
From Flush Jackson, an Oregon fan, I'm just saying it's not like the fans are saying. I wasn't sitting around laughing about the Big 12 and OU and Texas did what they did. The only confusing thing is recent history for me was not having a conference. And Flush, we love you, man. We appreciate you, and I'm glad you're an Oregon fan. And who knows where they will be soon. And maybe before you know it, we'll all be talking about competing for the state conference, same conference championship.
Let's make it very clear. If anybody got a Big Ten invite, they would take that invite.
Yes.
And nobody would blame that team for taking an invite. So I don't think anybody, the only reason USC is even part of this conversation is just because they're the one that created the conversation.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they wouldn't even be, and then with the other schools, and I've said this, look, this time a year ago, there were some, and look, they might have been 12-year-old kids just on YouTube talking crap, and so that's what you got to take into account too, is you never know who's on the other side of the computer. It could be just some child, just going crazy and loving to troll, and it could be a human person actually with those opinions. I don't know, but one thing I know for sure is I'm not rooting for the Pac-12 to die unless it has to for the Big 12 to survive. Maybe there's a route where both of them can last and last effectively. But I am by no means wanting Oregon to shut down as a program, or Oregon State to go to the wayside, or the folks in Pullman to never, be able to experience big-time college football again. The folks at Cal I don't feel as bad about. But everywhere else, I'm not rooting for the Pac-12 to die by any means. It's just the shoes on the other foot, and it's just a really interesting topic more than anything else. So, yeah, definitely not anti-Pac-12 unless you got to pick pick a side, and I am going to pick the Big 12 when it comes to that.
We appreciate all of your comments and feedback, chat room, the text line, a bunch of them. I just got one again from the 213 about being a businessman and his comparisons to Liv and PGA Tour, what he does as a businessman. We'll try to read that maybe tomorrow. Appreciate that. Woody just said Oklahoma's taking a lot of hardware when they leave. Yes, they are. Absolutely are. Tremendous tradition, history even recently. And, of course, Texas has taken a bunch as well with their history. Thank you to Emory. Thanks to Levi. Also, Garrett Ross. For Paul Catalina, welcome back, sir. Also, jet lag is like 2 or 3 days. And then Craig Smoak, David Smoak, thank you very much to our amazing sponsors that continue to grow as our audience. 365 Sports, Sikkim 365 Radio. Good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.